Excellent connection. Sending data. Don't send data. We want him back. Still sending. Oh, it's on for sure now. It's just lying. Cool. We alive. And now, a reading from Charles Bukowski. A poem is a city. A poem is a city filled with streets and sewers, filled with saints, heroes, beggars, madmen, filled with banality and booze, filled with rain and thunder and periods of drought. A poem is a city at war. A poem is a city asking a clock why. A poem is a city burning. A poem is a city under guns, its barbershops filled with cynical drunks. A poem is a city where God rides naked through the streets like Lady Godiva, where dogs bark at night and chase away the flag. A poem is a city of poets, most of them quite similar, and envious, and bitter. A poem is this city now, 50 miles from nowhere, 9:09 in the morning, the taste of liquor and cigarettes, no police, no lovers walking the streets. This poem, this city, closing its doors, barricaded, almost empty, mournful without tears, aging without pity, the hard rock mountains, the ocean like a lavender flame, a moon destitute of greatness, a small music from broken windows. A poem is a city, a poem is a nation, a poem is the world. And now I stick this under glass for the mad editor's scrutiny. And night is elsewhere, and faint gray ladies stand in line. Dog follows dog to estuary. The trumpets bring on gallows, as small men rant at things they cannot do. Powerful Charles Bukowski from the book The Days Run Away Like Wild Horses Over the Hills. Neat fact about this book, I took it to Best Buy one time and they stamped it. Like you could buy a book like this at Best Buy. Like there'd be some kind of confusion. Did you get your obscure Charlie Bukowski poem book at your electronics store? I'm afraid not. I'm afraid not. I'm afraid not. Let's try one more. I don't know about that one. How about... That sounds pretty rough. I don't know if you guys could take these. A lot of these Bukowski poems, if you go through and read them, you might not be able to handle them. They're pretty intense. A lot of drinking, a lot of women, a lot of inappropriate ideas and so on and so forth. Buk was from another time. You could say whatever you wanted then. Maybe you can say whatever you want now. Shout out to everybody joining us in the audience. Thanks so much for checking this out. Give us a thumbs up and a share. That would be cool. We'll get some more people watching it. We started a little early today. It's Sunday. It's 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock, but I was just sitting here. So, everything was ready. So I figured we'd start. Trying to get one more poem. Not finding quite the right one. Sparrow. There's a bunch of marked poems in here. Oh, I love when he does these. Okay, so every once in a while, Bukowski will do a poem about like a baseball team or a football team. But for Bukowski, I don't know that he really cares about baseball players or football players. So his football teams and baseball teams are always made up of writers and poets and musicians and people that he loves. So let's give this one a try. It's called L. Beethoven, Halfback. He came out for the team, Ludwig v. Beethoven, blocking halfback. He really knocked them down, but he drank beer and played the piano all night. Schiller, you're a freak, he said. Leave the ladies alone. The ladies will always be the same. Don't fret. When you need one, she'll be there. And Tchaikovsky, he said, take some vitamins. I don't mind that you're a homo. Just stay away from me. That's the trouble with all you guys. You're too pale. I took a lateral from G.B. Shaw and ducked around the end. Beethoven blocked 3 men as I went past. He said, I got a couple of babes lined up for tonight. Don't injure anything you might need later. I shot up the field, evading tacklers like a madman. B was studying harmony, but I doubted if he could ever make it. He was just a fat, beer-drinking German. So there you go. Beethoven, if he'd been a football player. Tchaikovsky, taking some vitamins. Yeah. Oh, boy, this is a long one. Oh, I'm not going to do the long one. No way. But maybe a third one will be all right. Let's see. Got to find the right ones, though, right? You can't read the wrong poem. All right. We'll try this. I don't know what it's going to be like. We'll see. I thought of ships, of armies, hanging on. I have practiced death for so long, and still I have not learned it. And tonight I came in, and my goldfish was not in his bowl. He had leaped, for reasons of his own. I had changed the water. It might have been a fly, and he was now on the rug, with black spots upon his golden body, and he was stiff, and he was still. And I put him back in the water. Some sound told me to do this, and I seemed to see the gills move. A large air bubble formed, but the body was still stiff, and miraculously, it did not float flat. The tail part was down in the water, and I thought of ships, of armies, hanging on. And then I saw the small fins near the underside of the head move, and I sat down on the couch and tried to read, tried not to think that the woman who had given me these fish was now dead 6 months. The world was going on past living things, now no longer living. And the other fish had died. He had overeaten. He had eaten his meal and most of the meal of the small one. And now the woman was gone, and the small one was stiff. And an hour later, when I got up, he floated flat and finished. His eyes looking up at me did not look at me, but into places I could not see. And the slave carried the master, this goldfish with black spots, and dumped him into the toilet and flushed him away. I put the bowl in the corner and I thought, I really cannot stand much more of this. Dead fish, dead ladies, dead wars. It does seem like a miracle to see anybody alive. And now somebody on the radio is playing a guitar very slowly, and I think, yes, he too, his fingers, his hands, his mind, and his music goes on, but it is very still, and it is very quiet, and I am tired. So there you go. There's a downer from Bukowski. Not a fun poem. Not a happy finishing to the readings. This book's fallen apart, but this is Timothy Leary, Your Brain is God. How to tune in and drop out. Go home and look at yourself in the mirror. Start changing your dress, your behavior, so that you float like a god, not shuffle like a robot. Look around your home. What kind of dead robot lives here? Start throwing everything out that is not tuned in to your highest vision. Make your body a temple, your home a shrine. You are a god. Live like one. Good stuff from Timothy Leary. Also, I was reading about the Lewis chessmen this morning. It was interesting to hear that not all of the chessmen are made of ivory. At least 3, including a warder in the collection of the National Museum Scotland, have been carved from whale's teeth, which may have been regarded as a cheaper material. It was also interesting to hear them break down the pieces by their idea of who might have made them. It seems that multiple carvers carved multiple pieces, and we can tell by things like the way that they did the faces or the way that they did the eyes, that it is the same carver doing multiple pieces, but not doing all of the pieces. They also speculated about whether this was a personally owned chess set or perhaps a merchant, and it was one of his samples or something, because that's why it had so many different variations and different pieces. So it's very interesting chess set, the Lewis Chessmen. And continuing with our series, I want to keep showing you the Lewis Chessmen. I was fortunate to go to London and then to Edinburgh and go to the British Museum and the National Museum of Scotland to get these pieces. This is the Queen from the Scottish Museum. And as you can see with the other Scottish pieces, she has a lot of damage and specks. They really went for the more worked in look. But what's really interesting about this, here's the Queen from the British set in London. Obviously a lot smoother, not quite as checked as the other piece, no felt bottom. But what I found so interesting is the size. One queen is thin and one queen is kind of short and wider. So there's a clear variation here. It's possible that they based them on different pieces. There are many different variations and different pieces, but you can see the design of the hand on the face, the way that they're sitting, the chair, also very similar. So it's neat to see even in the chess sets produced nowadays as souvenirs and, little tchotchkes or whatever, have a unique variation. So it's very interesting to see Scottish Queen thick and English Queen thin. Both nervous though, both worried, right? You really get the worry from these pieces. Interesting, huh? So there you go. There's your little palette cleanser of chess pieces. And we're going to save this for just a little bit later, maybe before the news. But this is our big book of the day. This is The Curse of Lono by Hunter S. Thompson and Ralph Steadman, fully illustrated from the good people at Taschen, a fantastic book company that makes large books like this. This book was previously out of print. They had a copy at my library at Sac State, and I went in there and borrowed it and went to a color scanner for quite a while, made my own version. That was the only version that I had, the only version I could get. This book's totally out of print until they made this big version. So I think they might have made a smaller paperback version too if you don't want to get the big one. But this is about Hunter S. Thompson and his trip to Hawaii. And it's great. And it's very, very, very illustrated. The reason it's so big is not because he wrote big words, but because Ralph Steadman drew big pictures. So we're going to look at that later in the show. But we better go ahead and get started. I'd just like to ask everybody at home to give us a thumbs up and a share. We have 13 thumbs up right now and 22 people watching us. So join us in the chat. Say hello to everybody. We got a good crew in there. Say, hi, I'm Jim from Jonestown or wherever you're from, and say hello to the chat. That'd be nice. So let's get started. Today is Sunday, March 29th, 2020. We're still trying to get out of March. It's got to be the longest March of our times, right? It's getting out of control. I've had enough. I've had enough March. I've had enough of virus talk and blah, blah, blah. Let's get out of March. Let's get to the next month. And although it's kind of a false hope, let's get to one of those warm months where they say everything will be fine. It's plenty warm in Vegas. Let's get to one of those months. Moving on. The price of Bitcoin is down 1.78% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,155, a high of 6,319, and a low of 6,070. Checking out, that's $1 for 16,276 Satoshis. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is still closed because it's Sunday and they're lazy. The last price of the Dow Jones Industrial Average was 21,636, down 4.06%, with a previous close of 22,552. Money printer paused on weekends? No. We keep it going. Coronavirus cases worldwide, previously around 622,000 infected, 28,000 deaths. Let's do the big refresh. 685,055 infected, 32,182 deaths. Good to see it still under 700,000 infected, I guess. Previously, we were doubling around every 7 days, total number of cases in the world. Pretty sure we're still on track for that. I don't see a lot of slowing. Stay home. It's not just about you, it's about other people. If you go outside, you could spread the virus to other people. So let's not do it. If you go to the store to get food and stuff, wear gloves, wear masks, separate your dry food for 3 days in your car. Just leave it there. Take your cold food inside. I don't know what the heck you're supposed to do with that. Put it in the fridge. There's a YouTube video about how to sanitize your food, etc. It sounds very detailed. Just the basics, I'd say. The thing lives in cardboard, so you got to get rid of all the cardboard anyone could have sneezed on and touched. It's a long shot, but you just want to stay safe. You want to stay clean. So check out that washing your food, grocery shopping, hygienic video if you want. It was detailed. Wear a mask. I know we've had this false guidance here, and everyone's using it as a reason to tear down the World Health Organization, etc., which is a great, fun idea. But really, let's not worry about that now. Let's just start wearing masks. Having a mask on will keep less microbes in your mouth. Certainly, you don't have a professional mask. It's not all microbes, but some microbes. So better than nothing, wear a mask. We'll probably get to it in the Twitter feed, but 17 years ago, the WHO told people if they didn't have a mask to make an extra mask out of a t-shirt. These days, they've been telling people just to go out there and that it doesn't matter. And we're going to find out later, but I don't think that's a very good idea. Like this show. Thanks so much to everybody for liking this show. We have 15 likes now. We've been getting a lot more views, a lot more comments and chat and discussion. And a lot of that is because you guys like the show. So, and that you share it. And I don't know what happened to the Bitcoin group, but we got like 7,000 views. So I don't know if we got put on Reddit or some kind of link thing or whatever, but check out the Bitcoin group if you haven't already. And thanks for joining us on this fun little daily show here. Hat's all messed up. I can't take it. Coronavirus cases in the United States previously around 105,000, 1,700 deaths. Let's give it the refresh. 124,356 cases, 2,236 deaths. So that was quite a hop up here, about a 25% increase from 100,000 to 125,000 here. Previously, we were looking at getting up to 160 in just a couple of days. We've been doubling every 2 to 3 days on this United States one. So just keep an eye on the doubles and hope that we can flatten this thing out. And it's not going to happen until everybody stays home and stops infecting other people. That's what we need. This is the enemy. It's a virus. It doesn't care about your politics. It doesn't care about your finances. It doesn't care about your job. It's a virus. Bitcoin rallied 80% without any government bailout. Is it time to get bullish? What's the time? It's time to get bullish. What's the time? It's time to get bullish. I'm not so sure. The whole market's still kind of going down. We're still kind of reeling from the coronavirus crisis and the failure to contain it and the failure to use science in the response. We're still in this thing. I agree with those guys who say we're range bound. It's not fun to be, but range bound stuck between 5,000 to 7,000 is better than range bound stuck between 3,000 to 4,000, right? Does Bitcoin price follow a 4-year cycle? These are fun charts that you can do right now, but they won't be valid in 20 years. There's no way to predict this thing. I like the way they all try to tack like little charts on the back, and they're like, oh, it followed this pattern for a little while, and it followed this pattern for a little while. But like it says here, then we had a massive economic crisis that upends all predictions. So yeah, so much for your prediction model. What good was your prediction model if it's ruined by once in a lifetime economic crisis? Well, that's not really fair, but still, you can't predict shit. What is it? The only two constants are death and taxes. Yeah, that seems about right. More nonsense. Bitcoin prices closely resembling the stock market's massive drop in 1930. I'm sure there's a reason for this. I'm sure that, stock market drops, human panics, generally look the same. Right here, people losing faith, people losing a lot of faith, up, maybe a little sell there, up, another top, and then whoa, back down. So I'm sure that price crashes always look like each other. I'm not that impressed with that comparison. Bitcoin Twitter sentiment is higher than altcoins, and it's not paid either. The XRP army, the Bcash takeover of the @Bitcoin handle. These things only last as long as they're paid. 6-month contract, 1-year contract, 3-month contract. And then you stop the bots. You turn the computers off because you're a volunteer army. You're the Hessians in you're the Hessians in the Revolutionary War. The Germans hired by the Redcoats. And when it was Christmas Eve, they took the night off and got drunk. That's when the Americans attacked, because the Americans weren't paid. The Americans fought all the time in the jungle, and they didn't line up in sweet little rows to get shot down. Bitcoin is like that. The real fighters, the ones who are in this, are not the ones getting paid. They're not the ones supporting altcoins. They're not the ones making it rich. It's the ones who are grinding it out and staying in it. That's why we're going to win long term. That's why they're going to lose. They don't have that. All right, getting ready for the news. Before we do the news, it's Big Book Sunday. That's the biggest book day on the internet. And it's time to look at The Curse of Lono by Hunter S. Thompson. Illustrations by the amazing Ralph Steadman. Let's see. Book's a little large, a little tough to hold. Long been out of print. Collectors have been collecting it, certainly like I did with my copy. Here's a great picture of Hunter S. Thompson to start out. He got a little letter from Running Magazine. I never heard of that. It doesn't exist anymore. But Running Magazine says, "Dear Hunter, to keep a potential screed down to a few lines, we would love you to cover the Honolulu Marathon. We will pay all expenses and an excellent fee. Please contact us. Think about it. This is a good chance for a vacation." So, of course, Hunter doesn't have a vacation like normal people. He gets very much involved in Hawaiian culture. Captain Cook, who famously discovered the Hawaiian Isles for America and then or maybe even England, was killed and eaten by the Hawaiian people. So they don't like foreigners much. Let me see if I can find some of the best pictures. Some of the best stuff happens on his way there when he's on the airplane. There's a man on the airplane. Oh, this is too far. He's gone to Hawaii already. But there's a guy on the airplane. Gosh, it's so good. He, I think it might be Hunter who does it, but he drops his drugs down the toilet, right? So he drops his drugs down the chemical toilet. Then he has to reach down in the toilet and get the drugs back. So you can see here, Hunter refers to him as the man with the blue arm, and that the rest of the flight, he smelled terrible, and that his arm was blue from the chemical toilet that he allegedly had to reach down to get his drugs back. So pretty crazy story. And that's just the airplane ride there. When he gets there, we have many colorful illustrations like this of Hawaii. Beautiful native 60s, 70s Hawaii. A little less commercial probably than the Hawaii that I got to go to. Seems like a lifetime ago, but 4 or 5 weeks ago I was in Hawaii, I guess. Gosh, it's hard to believe. But let's see if I can find another good one here. There was a really great one. So he's there to cover the Honolulu Marathon. And marathons are kind of like the Kentucky Derby and everything else that he's covered before, just a bunch of maniacs, right? I mean, he shows here everybody is stretching, getting ready for the marathon. And, they're just very fit, very thin, getting massages. They're just out of control, these marathon runners. Here's another picture of Ralph Steadman depicting the marathon runners just as a bunch of freaks of their own, right? They're into marathon running. They have a certain, talent, a certain dedication. They're no different from, say, Hunter, who's into hard drinking and hard drugs or whatever, except that they're into running, Excuse me. Here's a cool wave picture, some neat surfing. I can't really tell if you can see these, but I'm behind the book. So let's see what else we got. And then eventually I think Hunter gets crowned as like king of Hawaii, and he gets to like take things over. Here's one. I think he was almost drowning in a swimming pool. He has sharks in the pool, and he's looking up at the diving board. So pretty wild stuff. Obviously a big book here, The Curse of Lono. You guys could check out. I think they have a smaller paperback version. Let me find one more picture to end this out about what he's up to now. Looks like that's a sweet view. There's the beach and there's the pool. So that's cool to have them both in the shot. But yeah, I think that's about it for The Curse of Lono. Pretty amazing book. Pretty amazing stuff. Here's one more. This is a good one to end on. There's a hunter on the edge of a volcano with his typewriter. He says, "This is no place for a working journalist." I don't know. Oh, the switch camera views. That's clever, computer. You do that. You get on with your bad self. Make up your own choices. Here we go. I think you can see this now. This is no place for a working doctor of journalism. So there you go. Curse of Lono, Hunter S. Thompson and Ralph Steadman. It's a big book. This is a Big Book Sunday on the World Crypto Network. So give us a thumbs up if you like big butts and you cannot lie. Those other books, they can't deny. Oh, if I knew the rest of the words, I'd do them. But let's check out the news. And again, put your, take your protein pills and put your helmets on, right? David Bowie. All right, we're going to start off with a video from the WHO. We're seeing the power of Beijing's speech, China's speech, over a WHO official. Others are also saying that perhaps the entire WHO is compromised, and this is why they gave us the bad information on the masks. Maybe it's good for some people if American society is shut down for months and months because we didn't wear masks.
Will the WHO...
So let's check it out. She's obviously from Taiwan, and she's going to ask about Taiwan. Just a quick update if you guys aren't keeping up with current events. After World War II, Chiang Kai-shek lost to Mao Zedong, abandoned China to Taiwan. He declared Taiwan to be China. For a long time, the U.S. agreed with this and only recognized Taiwan as China. Then, in the 1970s, Richard Nixon reversed this, and we officially recognized China. We're still friends with Taiwan, but we less and less recognize and respect them as the years go on. It's gotten worse and worse for them. We've seen things like the Taiwan flag being taken out of Apple programs, the same way the Tibet flag is taken out of Apple programs. China very much wants Taiwan back. They've already declared that they are one China, that they already have them, that they are a state in rebellion rather than an independent state. So depending where you come in on that is where, where the Chinese want to be, the different politics options. So she's asking here if the WHO will consider membership for Taiwan. She gets a tough answer. And again, YouTube, this is fair use news content, but your automatic systems are going to demonetize me anyway. So, oh well.
Consider Taiwan's membership.
Dark. So dark.
Hello?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I couldn't hear your question.
Okay, yeah, let me repeat the question.
No, that's okay. Let's move to another one then.
Right, because I'm actually curious on talking about Taiwan as well, on Taiwan's case.
He hangs up.
We decided to give Dr. Alward another call to follow up.
He's a doctor.
And I just want to see if you can comment a bit on how Taiwan has done so far in terms of containing the virus.
Well, we've already talked about China, and when you look across all the different areas of China, they've actually all done quite a good job. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for inviting us to participate, and good luck as you go forward with the battle in Hong Kong.
You can't even say the word Taiwan. So that was a pretty creepy video there from the WHO. It does seem at least one man has been overtaken by politics and is afraid to say anything. He's afraid to even address the question. He's afraid to even admit that the question was asked. So not a good look from the WHO. Shout out to the EFF. It's time for the Supreme Court to allow cameras. There's been no reason for this. They allow oral arguments. They have recordings of them. They have transcripts of them, but they don't allow cameras, maybe because they don't want us to watch. Imagine if people actually paid attention to the Supreme Court. Maybe we wouldn't give them lifetime appointments when they're like 40 or 50 years old and they're going to live forever. Maybe we wouldn't do that if we could see what was going on. And I'd like to watch. I think it would be super interesting. I'd like to see Clarence Thomas not ask any questions ever. Singapore is open sourcing its contact tracing app called Trace Together. Essentially, if you were within 6 feet of someone else with the app who becomes positive later, you will be notified. So here it is. Some might find this creepy. Some might find it effective, right? Using our technology for good, but certainly could be perverted later down the line. It's pretty much like a version of that dating app that everyone always wanted. They always wanted that dating app where if someone, your age, similar beliefs, like Star Trek, within 20 feet of you, it'll buzz and it'll tell you to go over and walk and to find them. And then maybe you could do an icebreaker or have a hello or something. So it's a lot like that, except for the virus. And it also seems to be creating a lot of creepy tracking information of everyone that you walked by all day. So this is kind of like that idea where if you got some kind of a sexual transmitted disease, you're supposed to go back and call all your people. But this app would do it automatically and include everyone that you walked by on the street. So I don't know if we're going to need this. We're going to talk as well. Apple has a similar app that's coming out now. If you trust Apple, if you trust Singapore, if you trust open source, which again, open source is only good if it's checked and verified. We need a whole team of people to come in and check and clean this thing up, make it verified. And then they have to be trusted. Then we have to check those people. So, we'll just keep going with it. But again, there's going to be apps, there's going to be chips, there's going to be little cards and maybe a piece of paper and so on and so forth that say that you're clean. And it's going to be a thing. So if you have a better idea on how to do it, if you have a worst case scenario, something you think should be avoided, now's the time to talk about it. Now's the time to call up your congressman and whatever else you're going to do and say, hey, whatever you do, don't do this. Or if you have a positive suggestion, that would be great. You could suggest that. Bloomberg Economics says the U.S. doesn't just have a shortage of ventilators, it doesn't have enough parts needed to produce more. So time to get out those 3D printers, maybe to get a new shipment from China. I hear they're running again. Once again, China, really, if they could get those factories going, crank out ventilators and gloves and masks, they could make a lot of money. And they could also make a lot of goodwill. A lot of lives could be saved by some quick economic action. Nicole Paul Singh writes, nearly every American city is lacking the most basic supplies. The U.S. is going to be so ravaged by this, and the failure lies within the federal government, followed by the individual states. If this can't engender big structural change, what will? And I agree with this. Oh, streaming stopped. That's new. Oh, well. I think it's still working. Let's try one more chance. Warning, please check the video resolution. Well, this is new. Current resolution is not optimal. Anybody in the audience, are we still live? I'm going to keep going, but we got some strange warnings, and we might have dumped the Periscope or the Facebook feeds. So we're going to keep going on YouTube. Hopefully you guys are with us. Restream, this program that we pay for that we're getting tired of, seems to be having some issues because the streaming monitor went to offline. So we'll try to keep going with it. Here we go. We need big structural change. Cities need to be better organized for the people. Governments, federal governments need to be better organized for the people. There we go. Thing came back. All right. So that was weird. Because, if you can't monitor it, what good is the monitor? Shout out to New Balance. I have a bunch of New Balance shoes, and maybe I'll have to get some more. They say that they made shoes yesterday, and they're making masks today. It took a long time. Hopefully they were tooling up, but this is what all American companies and all factories in the world need to be doing right now. They need to retrofit, start making masks, start making gloves, protective equipment, ventilators, parts for ventilators, whatever we can to do it. And it doesn't look like, the greatest mask or anything. It looks like it's made of shoe material, but it looks like it would work and impressive. Shout out to New Balance. As One War Peter Smith writes here, I've never run in a New Balance shoe, but I will be this summer. And that's what companies need to think. Not only are you saving lives, which is great, you can help convince people your company's a good company. People will buy your products, maybe even for a lifetime. Imagine if this goofy mask saved your cousin that worked in the hospital. He'd buy New Balance for life. Your cousin's a brand man for life. I mean, this is a big opportunity. You want to get on that. Shout out to Paul Rosenberg. He says, notice, this is what an honest scientist does. And he's checking out that malaria drug. He said, here's a study that did not find a correlation between the malaria drug and positive outcomes. However, it was that drug only and not the cocktail that other studies and prescriptions have found successful. Even so, here's the data. And that's the way you do it. You publish the actual results of the data, even if it doesn't line up with what you wanted it to be, or maybe it doesn't support your side or your theory. As the guy in the chat here says, specifically, no zinc supplements were given. The outcome is not surprising. So it's very unlikely that it's this one drug, hydroxychloroquine, something like that, that would just cure it. It's not a cure-all. And even then, we're not talking cure. We're talking treatment for people who have the disease, different than vaccine. Vaccines for people that don't have it yet, which is what we really need because it prevents it. Treatment is for people who have it. Maybe they could improve and get better. Maybe they don't need to use ventilators. So this is very important. We need these drugs. We need this treatment. But I've heard that it's this hydroxychloroquine combined with zinc, combined with the HIV cocktail. We're talking big money now. Maybe combined with something else. I don't know the scientific facts, but it does have some effect during treatment. However, again, with the whole president thing, I would test it first, stockpile it next, then announce it as a cure. I wouldn't announce it first, test it next, and stockpile it last. I think you just get better results. And you can talk about it in your internal meetings. In your internal meetings, be as psyched up as you want. You've got a cure, you know. But when you go outside, if you tell people, you're just going to create the situation we have now where people are hoarding it, people are demanding it, people want it even though they don't know if it works, and we're having trouble testing it because we can't get any, and no one wants to take the placebo in the test. I mean, we have just all kinds of issues. So it's not the way to roll out a drug. Feminist Next Door writes, when healthcare workers say there's a ventilator shortage, what they mean is there's an abundance of people about to die by drowning inside their own lungs. And that is the actual real case here. They don't just want these so they can stack books on them. You know, these aren't paperweights. These are useful medical equipment that they need desperately in New York City. And they're going to need them in New Orleans, and they're going to need them in Washington. And it sounds like they're going to need them in San Francisco soon. So, yeah, it's all heating up. And none of it is, like, New York doesn't want 10,000 extra ventilators just so they feel good. There's nothing ego in this. It's all saving lives. Another questionable move from President Trump. Breaking news, Trump considering an enforceable quarantine in New York, New Jersey, and parts of Connecticut. Once again, I'd say the same thing I said about the announcing of the cure. This is the wrong order, right? After he announced this, they asked the governor of New York. He'd said he'd never heard of it and that it might be illegal. So again, let's rearrange the order of operations. Instead of announcing the quarantine first, talking to the governor second, and then finalizing the quarantine last, what I think you should do is talk to the governor first, finalize the quarantine, and when you announce it, actually have the quarantine. Because the problem right now, by announcing it first, which again, the man has a predilection towards announcing things first. That's his style. That's what's worked for him as a casino builder and a real estate guy, a TV star. All of these things, announcing first, regardless of whether you're actually going to build the thing or whatever, has always worked. But I would say instead of announcing it first, talk to the governor first, finalize the details, then announce a real quarantine, not a potential quarantine. Because right now, if you're in New York or New Jersey or Connecticut, you're probably going to try to leave so that you don't get quarantined. Which fails the whole point of the quarantine. You want to keep the virus potentially in one area. That's the whole point of it. So announcing it first doesn't help. Like, this is a new world. Like, you have to think more, I don't know. You have to think more logically. You have to think more strategically. It's not too late. You can still do it. They can act strategically. I believe in them. They have some smart people. They're not listening to them, but I mean, they have some smart people in there. They must, God willing. Op-ed in the San Francisco Chronicle with Hillary Ronen and Matt Haney calling for rent and mortgage moratorium. We need to not only stop evictions, but also to freeze and suspend rent and mortgages during this crisis. I saw a great comparison on the news. They talked about the different ways that countries are handling this. They said in Denmark, maybe Netherlands, some of the other countries, what they'd done is they'd given the money directly to the employers. And they'd said to the employers, keep your workers on payroll. This means that you still have a job. You have something to go back for. We're gonna see, but I think that's the way to go. I think that's a good way to do this. In the United States, we've tried a different tactic. What we've done is we've given the money to the unemployment insurance company, right? So everyone's going to get unemployment insurance, but no one has jobs anymore. No one has anything to go back. The teams, the firms are distributed. The knowledge is being lost, right? Your special skills to be a cashier, whatever it was, it's some kind of skill they're going to have to retrain. So by giving it to the unemployment insurance, I think that we're going to have a slower recovery than these other countries. But again, with the data, we're going to be able to compare this. Even on a smaller scale, small country like Denmark, big country like the US, we can still do the percentages. We can look at the numbers. And then next time, maybe we can think it would be better to give the money to the employers. In the same way, other countries have done rent and mortgage freezes. They're maybe a little further down the line, like Italy, for example. The United States has not. And I agree with this article that it's not just about stopping evictions, but also freezing rent and mortgages. Because even though we like to say landlords are bad and they are, parasites on the system and all this kind of thing, a lot of landlords still need the money from the rent to pay for the mortgage on the thing that they, technically own from the bank. So in that way, if you don't bail out the landlords, they're all going to go out of business and you're going to have to kick those people out anyway. Because the landlord's going to lose the building. They're going to lose the house, whatever it is. You still have to, you're not evicted, but we have to sell this thing. It's not ours anymore. Or the landlord gets foreclosed on, so on and so forth. So yeah, I really think this is a good idea in the middle of this crisis. No one can go out. No one can work. Many small businesses are done. The gig economy is done. I'm not sure this is really about lazy people. This isn't really a welfare type program. This isn't a like you're too sick to work or you just don't want to work or you don't have skills or it's a bad time in your life. These are people who are doing fine before the virus. So in the same way, if we backed up the employers, they could go right back to work. If we back up the rents and the mortgages and the landlords as well as the people paying the rents, they can keep living in their houses. If we don't do these things, like we have a choice here, right? Certainly there's complete market capitalism, right? We could just let it go. Everybody goes bankrupt. All the businesses go bankrupt. All the landlords go bankrupt. All the businesses go out of business. And we hit the Great Depression too, harder than you've ever seen. Soup lines, longer than you've ever seen because they'll be spaced out with social distancing. But they're going to change that to physical distancing because social distancing is different. But yes, we'll be right back in it. So that's the Keynesian argument for printing money, is that you prevent these absurd hard bottoms. You have a smaller bend to things rather than a dramatic drop and a dramatic up and a dramatic drop and a dramatic up, that you're middling things out, right? Less damage in the middle. That's what our system is. We're going to try it. If we were on Bitcoin completely, like I've said many times, we can't print money for weapons. Good. We can't print money for disaster relief. Bad. When Bruce Springsteen says you have to donate in the Bitcoin world, you have to donate or there's no food for Katrina. There's no new houses. There's no anything because the government loses its money printing power if Bitcoin goes the way that we think we're making it. Also, Jennifer says she's going to pay her landlord. That's nice. If anyone wants to maybe get a month off from your bills, I'm not sure that they're going to waive them, but they might give you an extra month to pay. I've heard through the grapevine that you can call up your cell phone company or your credit card company or whoever it is, and the magic keyword is I cannot pay because of coronavirus. I lost my job because of coronavirus, whatever it is. If you mention this, the credit card companies, the cell phone companies are supposed to give you a break. Because the idea being, and you can tell them this on the phone, you can say, if I'm either going to, get this deal or I'm not going to pay you at all. So it's a much better deal for them if they can get a deal, if they can work something out, just like with the jobs. If they can keep you on the credit card system rather than having you go bankrupt and just walk away, It's better for them. So if you need help, or even if you just want an extra month, I don't care. Call up your credit cards. Tell them about this thing. Let's make the most of this, because who knows? I mean, maybe you're fine now, but in a few months you'd be effed. So let's hold on to the resources we have. Let's buy food and protective gear. Let's take care of ourselves. The slope of COVID-19 detection in Utah is increasing, reflecting increased availability and testing. This means the virus is and has been in the community. The governor of Utah needs to announce a statewide mandatory shutdown to prevent catastrophe. But will he? Again, if we had a national government, the national government could say, Utah, you're over a certain percentage. Once you're over a certain percentage, we can't do the old strategy. We have to switch to the new strategy. You're going to have to shut it down. If we had a national government, if we were the United States, if we weren't just 50 principalities trying different tactics at this thing, which we're not. It's starting to feel like the Holy Roman Empire in here. It's neither holy, nor Roman, nor an empire. The states were not united, nor were they states. The Civil War was hardly civil. Oh, shout out to Instacart workers. This is desperate and they need it bad. It's a rough time to support a strike, but this is it. Instacart workers are demanding, or they will strike. They want $5 an order hazard pay. They want free safety gear, hand sanitizer, soap. How about gloves and masks? This poor lady is shopping professionally without masks or a glove. I mean, she's toast in 2 weeks. They want free safety gear. They want paid sick leave expansion. And you know what, Instacart? You should give it to them. I can't believe that these grocery workers are still working without hazard pay, that they're putting themselves on the front line. They're potentially military in this situation, and they're not getting hazard pay. They're not getting anything else. Could you imagine getting out of work to go to your stupid grocery working, scanning things job? Only now it could get this disease that could kill you or shut you down for 2 weeks. Who knows if they even have 2 weeks of medical leave, 2 weeks of paid sick leave. They're grocery workers, especially the stock guys. I don't think they treat them very well at all. They're interchangeable cogs. At least the cashiers have some kind of training. You want to keep them around. But same thing for these Instacart people. Previously, in previous times, they would have just fired them all. They would have just fired them all, get some new ones. But now times, give it to them. Give them what they want. Same thing they're saying for Amazon warehouse workers, Amazon delivery truck guys, all these people. Hazard pay, safety gear, and free sick leave. At the least. If not, bonuses and just more money. I mean, I know, you pay people, they'll do anything, but if you don't pay these people, why the heck would they keep doing what they're doing? It doesn't make any sense at all. I finished up Philip K. Dick's Maze of Death. Like I've said, I read all the Philip K. Dick books. I think I've read 10 to 15, maybe 20 of them. There's about 45. And they're good. I like the ones with the worst titles better. This one, kind of a pocket drama, not very big, kind of a twist ending. Not going to give it away. But it was fun. I could see it being kind of a made-for-TV movie or a made-for-Netflix movie. 11 of Philip K. Dick's 45 books have been made into movies. So it's possible eventually they get to them all. But it was a nice, quick, little pulpy science fiction. I think the best part of it was probably, as usual, Philip K. Dick injecting his own religious beliefs into the book. Kind of a spoiler. Fast forward like 5 minutes, turn the mute off if you really want to read Philip K. Dick, Maze of Death. But at the end of the story, they kind of all talk about the previous thing, and they all kind of talk about the religion, and that the religion was completely created, but it seems so real. And of course, it's Philip K. Dick's religion that they're talking about. It's the author's religion, so of course he loves it. And he loves that the characters would still remember it and think fondly, even after things happen. So, no, fun book, Maze of Death, nice quick read. I mean, I gave it 3 stars. It's adequate. So 4 stars, you have to be really good. 5 stars, you have to blow me away. And we're talking not just plot, but also just words, the way that you flow. It wasn't like that. I mean, Dick, I like him. He's a pulpy writer, but I read him for his ideas. It's the ideas that are there. I mean, the plot, the execution, the actual writing, it's okay. I mean, it's average. He wrote 45 books. I mean, he's jamming on these things. He's not exactly editing a lot. They're not beautiful, but the ideas, what they do to your brain, the way they make you think about new things, that's why I read Philip K. Dick. So, true story. Oh, here we go. The Bureau of Indian Affairs announced today that the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, that the Secretary of the Interior had ordered that their reservation be disestablished and their land be taken out of trust. As here, Jeet says, true story. Trump had a long-standing feud with this tribe over control of a casino. And here's the background. 321 acres of Indian lands did Trump's complex web of businesses and political connections lure him into a local land dispute. So here it is. Trump's taking out his revenge against this Native American tribe, probably a casino issue. He was previously in the casino business. As James Gleick writes, our government has been taken over by the pettiest of petty tyrants. And again, I mean, be a fan of Trump all you want, but when he does things like this, it's so hard to be a fan of him. I mean, this is just obvious revenge taking. Like maybe you're like a mean guy and you're like, oh, I love it when he takes revenge against people that are weaker than him. But I don't think it's a good idea. And again, this is only going to come back on him. There's going to be cases and tribes, and they're going to maybe even make him testify. And did you do this out of revenge? But then they always get him. They always get people that do things like this. I've seen all the testimonies and the interviews with the lawyers and stuff. I used to work for lawyers, so I'd have to review trial footage and things every once in a while. And it's always like we thought we were going to get away with it and we were covering it up and all these things, and then it always swings back. It always swings back. The evidence will just be too easy. Like, his feud with this thing, it's just going to be too obvious. Maybe he can pardon himself. There's options. Here's an article from the New York Times. It didn't have to be this bad. How the Trump administration in the world's richest nation with the best scientists failed the first step of controlling the virus, developing a test for the pathogen. An important read from the New York Times. The article is called The Lost Month, How a Failure to Test Blinded the U.S. to COVID-19. It's not a political thing. We all lost this month. The world lost this month. New Balance, General Motors, they could have been making ventilators and masks last month, right? They could have been firing. They say it's going to take at least a month to get any of those ventilators, by the way. So it's not going to help New York. It's not going to help Washington or New Orleans or maybe even San Francisco or wherever the next outbreak is, maybe Utah. But next time we can do differently. Next time we can have different leaders. We can have better protocols. We're going to have to do it better next time. Next time it might be worse. Let's see. The tweet is unavailable. Let's see. Previous people have considered revolutions for less. Oh, the person deleted. They turned all their tweets off. All right. So what were they talking about before? I'm not sure. We'll just skip that one. Keep moving. They say, keep in mind that Trump is a pathological liar. Big article from the New York Times analyzing the patterns in Trump's falsehoods about coronavirus. They're nice. They didn't use the word lie. That's kind. Let's just go down and try to get the top of this. One of the main things he's been doing is playing down the severity of the pandemic. When the first case of the virus was reported in the United States, Trump dismissed it as one person coming in from China. He said the situation was under control and it's going to be just fine. A day later, it was lower than any other country. There were very few cases. Let's see, it was low, so he underestimates it. The other thing he does, and this is particularly devastating and disastrous for potential cures, is that he overstates potential treatments and policies. He promoted treatments that were still unproven against the virus and suggested that they were approved and available, although they were not. He's exaggerated his own policies and the contributions of the private sector towards fighting the outbreak. He imprecisely described a website developed by a company affiliated with Google. He said that insurers were covering the cost of treatment when they only agreed to waive co-payments for testing. He prematurely declared that automakers were making ventilators right now. And also blaming others. He blames the CDC for the test kit. He blames the Obama administration for testing. He blames the World Health Organization, saying that they had a bad test. However, there is no evidence that the WHO test was unreliable. He blamed Governor Cuomo for not buying ventilators in 2015, saying they had 16,000 ventilators at a low price and he turned it down. However, says the report did actually not recommend increasing the stockpile and noted that purchasing more was not a cure-all solution, as there would be not enough trained healthcare workers to operate them. He's also been rewriting history, saying that testing in March was perfect, saying that the tests were all perfect. He said his response to the coronavirus was one of the best. He called Obama's reactions a full-scale disaster, but it actually seems to be the opposite. He argued that nobody would ever believe a thing like this is possible and that it snuck up on us. However, there were a number of warnings, including a government report saying that the United States and the world will remain vulnerable to the next flu pandemic or large-scale outbreak of a contagious disease. So these are the many ways in which he's been having falsehoods: rewriting history, blaming others, overstating potential treatments and policies, and playing down the severity of the panic. It would be great if he could stop doing all of these things. California guy says, I may be stuck at home, but at least I have access to technology that allows me to see the worst information on Earth and get insanely mad about it. Nice. They're going to get rid of the word social distancing. I agree with this. They're going to change it to physical distancing. They're worried that the word social distancing actually means what we've been doing, what me and the computer geeks have always been doing, which is going home and staying away from people, not calling them, not phone calling them, not video chatting, not being social, right? That's not exactly what they wanted to tell you to do. They want you to do what they're going to call soon physical distancing. They want you to keep physical distance from other people. You could still talk to them, but at 6 feet away or whatever. So it's interesting to see the accuracy of terms. This social distancing term might have made us all antisocial. So let's switch that up to physical distancing. As I said earlier, Governor Cuomo doesn't think that the quarantine of New York is legal or that it would be successful and that it would be a federal declaration of war. Just going back to some of the things I've heard lately, I've heard people trying to say that we should do a county-by-county plan, which, again, we can't just lock off the counties. We don't have walls around our counties. We don't have borders or fences or anything at the county level. Expanding just a little bit to the state level, same thing. We don't have walls around our state. It's not easy to just say, close New York State. If guys really want to do it, they could walk around the border. They could take dune buggies or jeeps or whatever, cars. They could drive. All of our borders are not militarized, and they're not even really borders. The states are fluid, right? People move from state to state. So a county-by-county approach, even a state-by-state approach, doesn't properly understand the kind of society we have here in the United States. One of the reasons everyone was so freaked out when they saw China shutting down is because they can't imagine us shutting down. A lot of people here are independent. They're Americans. Like, they're not going to listen. They're going to do what they want to do, or they're going to try to evade you, like announcing the quarantine of New York, then having everyone leave, spreading the virus everywhere else. You enact a quarantine. You don't announce it. It's not a threat. It's a thing that you do because you have to do. So, yeah, I wouldn't have announced it. I would have talked to the governor first. But again, these are just, order of operations. You do the things you want. I'll do the things I want. I think this is a better way, but we'll see how it goes. Shout out to Michael Stipe of REM, my favorite band. He's got a new song out now. He's got a little demo of it like everybody else. He's singing at home. I thought it was pretty good. Dragged a little at the end. We've already lost our ad rights. Maybe we'll play a little bit of Michael Stipe. Let's see if it's going to work.
No time for breezy, no time for arguments, no time for love like now.
So there's 25 seconds, just a sample. Very electronic backgroundy sound. Shout out to Murad at Must Stop Murad. He says that Bitcoin continues to move up the chart towards full global money. We just passed that proving the system is hard to change and thus reliable, reducing anxiety and perceived protocol risk. We're way far away from being a digital collectible for nerds. And our next steps are greater perceived security, safety, greater education and understanding, and greater decentralization as we work our way towards a reliable store of value, someday a widespread medium of exchange, a convenient unit of account, and full global money. Let's go, Bitcoin. Balaji says, growing consensus for a total rethink of biological regulations, starting with an expanded right to try. Because the FDA failed, test delay turned containable situation into crisis. But people want regulated products, so empower Mayo Lab and Stanford, etc., to work with state regulators. No central checkpoint. Not sure about this one. I've not been a big fan of right to try. Certainly I saw Dallas Buyers Club. That seems pretty legit. If you have HIV or AIDS, you want to try some crazy drugs, that seems pretty legit to me. I'm not sure that we want to just open it up for everybody on every single disease that comes through town. Seems a little extreme to me. I agree that the FDA failed, but I also believe the FDA was set up to fail. So this may be one of those situations where the FDA is set up to fail so that our good friends at Mayo and Stanford can come in and make a ton of money. So not so sure about that one. I believe if you hollow out a government industry, don't hire anyone to work there, don't put a good leader in charge, like any government agency would fail. It doesn't matter. So not so sure on that one. But, Balaji's clever. If he's for it, maybe it's a good idea. Try to think of what someone smarter than me would do. So New York City's 9/11 system is overwhelmed. Paramedics are terrified. Corona cases are mounting. I can't imagine what it's like there. Just even to have a comparison, I go back to that Scorsese Nick Cage movie. I think it was called Bringing Out Your Dead or Bringing Out the Dead. But it's like an ambulance driver in New York City, and they're just out of control, skidding around corners, flipping over the ambulance, crazy patients. And that was just normal New York City. I mean, sure, it's a movie, it's contrived, but that was just normal ambulance driving in New York City. I can't imagine in this coronavirus hellhole. And once again, they need hazard pay, they need bonuses, they need something, keep these people going. Make it worth their while, right? Calling them heroes and clapping is only one thing. Let's buy these guys a car, let's give them something. Oh, this is a horrifying picture. As Benjamin Applebaum says, this beach is a microcosm of the United States right now. We have some parts of the country taking serious measures to prevent the spread of coronavirus, and others undermining those efforts. This picture, Travis Akers, at Travis Akers on Twitter, writes, this picture is from 3 p.m. today. You can see exactly where Duval County ends and St. Johns County begins. All the beaches in Duval are closed, while St. John's only blocked parking at the beach. Governor DeSantis needs to order a statewide closure of all Florida beaches. And you can see here down in the bottom, there are no people at the beach. It's empty. There's a couple of dune buggies, presumably police, who I wish could just drive forward and clear off the rest of the beach because all these people standing close to each other, sharing space and distance, are essentially a big petri dish of coronavirus infection, especially in Florida where they have so many old people, so many retired. To see this kind of nonchalance, truly rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, watching the iceberg sink us slowly, and then all at once. Remember it kind of like, then it started tipping. Then you had your real problem, the thing broke in half, and then it was well over. Could be the whole country. It's definitely going to be Florida. Once again, it's not supposed to be like this. You're not supposed to be sentenced to death just because you live in Florida and you have a bad governor. Or you have a bad county leader. You have a bad mayor. These people are in real trouble. Sweet Meteor of Death says, public service announcement. Keep gloves or plastic bags or something in your car to hold the pump when you get gas. Every pump is touched by 30 to 60 hands a day, and everyone going to a drive-up COVID-19 testing site needs gas. Of course, he doesn't know why he's trying to keep you heathens alive, really, but it's a nice thing to say. There's a classic story about the Black Death. It was in England, I believe, and maybe in London or something, and they were all getting water from these water pumps. So a guy mapped it out, and he mapped out which water pumps were being used the most in town. And he recognized a couple of water pumps that were like connective water pumps, where people from this area and people from that area and people from this area, they'd all use the same water pump, right? So what he went into these 2 or 3 major connector water pumps, the ones that served multiple areas, and he removed the handles. So the water pumps were not functional. They were inactive. The people then went to their local water pumps that didn't share cross-location contamination, and the plague went straight down. So let's not recreate the same thing with these gas pumps. Let's not be the stupid idiot that everyone who buys gas gets the virus. Let's wear gloves. Let's have plastic bags. And then, of course, equally as important, you have to dispose of these gloves. You have to, I'm terrible at this, but you have to turn it inside out somehow, keep it away from your hands, wash your hands, maybe put them in alcohol right away, I guess, if you're going to reuse them. I don't know. Look that up. But yeah, this being sterile, like being a hospital worker, is not something I'm trained for or you're trained for, but we're all in it now. Right? Like I watched that video about how to wash your hands like a surgeon, and now I'm finding myself doing a little miniature version of that every time for no reason. Nothing on my hands. I mean, but still, I wash them, and I try to wash them good. But in the same way, yeah, gloves, hospital gowns, protective gear, masks. Like it's time for all of us to learn everything. So all the stuff I thought I could ignore, it's coming right back up. It's the same thing like cars. Like I blissfully avoided learning anything about cars, instead focusing on computers. And every once in a while, yeah, I need to know something about cars, and I just don't know it. Hospitals and viruses and human bodies and things like that, it's also the same. I tried to ignore it, but that always comes back. You have to have this kind of total knowledge. You can't have any area that you're ignoring because that's the area that's going to come up and bite you, right? So at least that's the way I see it. I mean, I'm into knowledge. I have a lot of knowledge. I try to get more knowledge. That's my game. But maybe you're not into that. I don't know. As I said, 14 years ago, the Center for Disease Control told people how to make masks out of T-shirts if N95 masks were to become unavailable. They even have instructions here with how you're supposed to tie the T-shirt. It doesn't even look like you have to. You maybe make some cuts, you make some slits into the T-shirt, you can roll it down. They have a variety and instructions right here. 14-year-old CDC instructions telling you what I've been telling you for weeks now. Anything over your face, any kind of mask is better than no mask. So, and that's going to change soon. Shout out to CNN. They say that history has shown naming disease after places can have negative consequences for nations, economies, and people. As times change, language does too. And this piece, I don't have to read it. We don't have to go look at it, but it's essentially a response to what the president was saying, calling it the Chinese flu, calling it the Wuhan flu. This is, yes, we used to do it in the past, but we don't do it anymore. It's distasteful. It spreads a bad thing. You have to imagine how he would felt if we called it the Trump Hotel virus. That's terrible for the Trump hotels, even if it was discovered there, right? It's awful. Like, we don't want to destroy them for generations. People thinking, Spanish equals flu, or Trump equals virus, or China equals virus, or Wuhan equals virus. That's not acceptable. So we have to, it's the golden rule again. Like, you have to think about what other people would want. Like, if we had the virus in Detroit and you're going to call it the Detroit virus, or we could call it COVID-19, which is a nice generic name. Has a virus name, has the year it's discovered. Cool. Doesn't bother anybody. So, yeah, just think about what other people would want. And we already had the thing where he, after calling it the Chinese flu and even editing his script to not have it say coronavirus, the proper scientific term, he was upset days later that people were bothering Asian Americans and that we're discriminating against them and calling them names and chasing them and being huge assholes. But it's his crazy words that tipped off those huge assholes. Like, you have a certain responsibility when you're president, when you have a large platform like he does. And you have to choose how you use your responsibility. I think he uses it rather poorly. But it's up to him. It's certainly his bully pulpit, right? As Teddy Roosevelt would say. It's the bully pulpit. Comes with the job. Mask the virus. With new CDC guidance on masks to be coming in the next few days, we will all need to start educating ourselves to mask the virus. And I'm agreeing with this. We all need to figure out if we're going to clean these things, how we're going to clean these things, if we're going to get more of them. Obviously, I'm not saying we should start going out just because we have masks. But if you're going to go to the grocery store, you got to go to the drugstore, or whatever it is, you should be protected. You should wear a mask. And you should know how to clean it, how to take it on, how to take it off, how to keep from getting infected, even though you have a mask. So let's all do a little bit of research. Let's all pretend that we don't know everything and that maybe we can learn something new, and that doctors and hospitals have quite a lot to teach us. I'm pretty sure that's true across the board. Shout out to Balaji. He's altered his profile to show a mask over his mouth to support the American masking efforts, which we hope will start in a few days. This is a good idea. He also suggested maybe someone could make an easy program to add this to people's profiles, or an automatic program or something like that. So if you're capable of doing that, this might be a fun project for you to do while you're sitting at home. Government officials and executives at rival ventilator companies said they suspected that Covidien had acquired Newport to prevent it from building a cheaper product that would undermine Covidien's profits from its existing ventilator business. And once again, when you have for-profit medicine, it's for profit. They don't care about building more ventilators. They clearly had the option to build a cheaper ventilator, could have saved thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives. Also, in discomfort, all kinds of other things. Instead, they bought the company to shut them down. Nice. Yeah. And again, let's just think of a time in the future when we'll have lots of time. We'll just be sitting around and we can get the heads of these ventilator companies to come to Congress, and we can line them all up like they did the cigarette executives in the movie The Insider. And we can ask them all the questions we want about what they did and why they did it. And it's going to come down that they just wanted to make more money and less ventilators. And they didn't really care that they were making hospital equipment. They could have been making DVDs or video games or widgets. It doesn't matter. Their goal was profit. For-profit healthcare gives you for-profit results. It's not that hard to understand. I mean, garbage in, garbage out, right? And the garbage are the people who are profiting off of not making ventilators. Balaji writes, "It's stark. The only way to preserve freedom and democracy is with technology. Because without effective treatment or vaccine, we face a future of extended lockdown, quarantine, and surveillance. Just like the first bailout greased the skids, this won't be the last lockdown. And he's responding to Jeff Lewis, who writes, 2 possible futures. Number 1, STEM companies figure out a way to stop the spread and save the world. Yeah. Number 2, slide into true global authoritarianism of the left and the right. Pick one. So I'm with science. I think we should science this thing. Another article from The Guardian, the English newspaper. The president botched the response to this pandemic so badly. So much of what's happening now is because of that. And we're not trying to be critical of the president here, but as the Guardian headline even says, the missing 6 weeks, how Trump failed the biggest test of his life. He was aware of the danger from the coronavirus, but a lack of leadership has created an emergency of epic proportions. So I'm not going to go into the article here. We've already talked a lot about the 6 weeks or the month where we did nothing. It's not a political thing. If this was Obama or Biden or anybody else and they did nothing for a month or 6 weeks, I would be saying the exact same thing. I would have said it more like, oh, I used to like the guy, or oh, I thought he was clever. You know, sure, I would have come from a different place. But you can't just sit there and do nothing. This is your job. And we're going to talk about this forever. There's going to be books about this. There's going to be emails that are come out. There's going to be people inside the administration screaming, we should do something. Good people. And there's going to be people inside the administration saying that we should do nothing. And that's fine. I mean, they were wrong. They took a side. They took a risk. They lost. It was bigger than we thought. Bigger than they thought, at least. As Stone Kettle says, Nero fiddled while Rome burned. We use this phrase because the self-aggrandizement of a Roman emperor, who may have started the fire as a real estate grab, was so infamous, it's still noteworthy 2,000 years later. 2,000 years from now, we might be saying, Trump tweeted while the pandemic raged. Because it really is. You have a choice between action or inaction. And, he took the choice of inaction. And even if he said, he didn't make a choice, he was just waiting. By waiting, he took the side of inaction. If he had taken action, if he had built even a single ventilator in the 6 weeks, we would have one more ventilator. We don't. Shout out to a Twin Cities sportswear company that's pivoting to make protective masks. As Richard Painter says, many American businesses, big and small, can convert production lines to help us fight the virus. They are putting lives first, profits second. That's a big deal. It's not how we normally do things. It's not how a for-profit healthcare company works. They put profits first. Lives are second. And we could have done this months ago. We could have done this on a grand scale. We could have done this in an organized, top-down, national fashion, as if we were fighting another World War II, as we've said over and over. Mitch Albom, author of the book, I think it's Tuesdays with Maury, I have not read it, writes a long article. I wanted to read it, but it's just too long, about Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan, saying that she deserves respect and that she's doing her job, and that the president was way out of line when he said to Vice President Mike Pence, he said, don't call that woman in Michigan. And also implied that because they had political or personal disagreements, that Michigan would not be receiving protective gear and ventilators, that they had to ask nicely. This is a very bad look. The states are not supposed to be competing with each other for the loyalty and respect of the king. It's not how this system's supposed to work. It's going to be studied, it's going to be written about, and this is going to be another one of the flashpoints when he starts personally insulting governors and questioning whether the people who live under these governors will be able to keep living because of his personal, political, and other disagreements with these people. It's out of control. Here's something that we've been talking about and we're going to talk about a lot more. Apps going rogue maintaining personal privacy in an epidemic, Apple is releasing new software. And there's this new software here called SafePaths that tracks your movements in a privacy-preserving way and could let health officials tackle coronavirus hotspots. So this is definitely going to be one of those civil liberty issues. You're going to have to decide where you come down on this. I think if it's voluntary, I think if it works, if we analyze it and we think that's a system that could work, and if it's something that sunsets, something that goes away, we might have to do something like this to fight the virus. On the other side, you might be saying, it's too much info, it's too much privacy, it can be used for other things. Certainly we could track coronavirus people, but we could also track maybe people that hang out in clubs that we don't like. Maybe, homosexuals or whatever. Any kind of group of people that you don't like that you can now separate and track because you have all the geographic information in the world gives you the incredible ability to then discriminate or target that group that you don't like, no matter what they are or what characteristics that they share that equal your dislike. So yes, this privacy data is important. This is a big deal. I'm a big privacy guy, but I also want to kill the virus. I want to use all the techniques, all the tools we have. One of the tools might be these damn smartphones with an app on it. This might give us the information that we need. I don't know. We really have to analyze it. We really have to break it down. Needs a sunset, needs to be limited, needs to be voluntary. Maybe voluntary wouldn't work. It wouldn't stop the virus. I don't know. We're going to have to go through all these things. And it's definitely going to happen or it's going to not happen. The more we talk about it, the more people get involved, the more EFF and privacy organizations take the stance and say, hey, maybe we should do this first. Maybe we should do that first. Maybe we should do a version of this. The less bad it will be. The quieter we are now, the more we ignore it happening, the more bad it will be. Because when it comes time and they're desperate, they'll just grab up one of these tools like a wrench off the shelf. And you'll be saying, oh, but it's not voluntary. Oh, and it doesn't sunset. And oh, it's super creepy. And this government company now owns all our data. And it won't matter because they've already picked up the wrench. We have to talk to them now before they pick up the wrench. We need to say, put a safety on the wrench, put a sunset on the wrench. Give us some options with that wrench. The way they kind of did with the Patriot Act. But same thing. Patriot Act was sitting on their shelf, ready to go. When it was time to launch it, they just launched it. So. Got to pause there. Drink some cold tea. I had a nice day yesterday, just like every other day. I stayed inside. Stayed out of trouble. But yeah, I finished reading Maze of Death by Philip K. Dick. Finished a book. Nice. I finished playing South Park, The Stick of Truth. Embarrassingly, I've been playing this game for years. Not really at a dedicated fashion, but, I started it maybe a year after it came out or something. I got it cheap, and I played it for a few months and then put it on the shelf for, 3 or 4 years. I picked it up recently on sale for the Switch, and I set it down to the lowest level of combat, and I made it through the story, which is all I really wanted. It was like a South Park episode. Full of jokes, beautifully animated. Obviously, South Park isn't really advanced animation, so it works really well on the PS4 or the Switch. And great fun game. Definitely recommend Stick of Truth. It's like a kind of a Zelda-like adventure game. Go here to get this, go here to get that. At some points, they're kind of making fun of that, making you go to a bunch of places and get a bunch of stuff and then come back. And you fight the enemies kind of like Final Fantasy in a group of people, like a Dragon Warrior kind of thing. But yeah, it was great. And I look forward to the second one, The Fractured But Whole. So gonna check that out pretty soon, hopefully. But I'll probably take a break, maybe play a different game for a while. It'll be nice. Also, we watched the movie Richard Jewell by Clint Eastwood about the security guard who was falsely accused of being the Olympic Park bomber. He actually helped and found the bomb and saved lives. And then the media and the government made his life a living hell. So it's a great movie. Clint Eastwood, fantastic director. It didn't do too well at the box office. I'm not sure why. It was solid. Certainly, it's going to make you upset. It's going to make you upset at the media and the government. It reminded me a lot of the movie The Insider, Michael Mann, Russell Crowe movie, about cigarette companies, and this guy who's an insider who speaks out against the cigarette companies, saying that they were doing nicotine fixing, that they were increasing the amount of nicotine being delivered so that people would stay addicted to their products, and that they knew they were doing this. That movie makes you mad. Same way Richard Jewell, I think he was horribly treated by the media and horribly treated by the FBI, and it has a bit of a Philip K. Dick kind of a feeling to it. This guy is a normal guy. He wants to be a sheriff's deputy. He likes law enforcement. He's not that bright. He's not that good at it. He ends up working security. And in the most Philip K. Dick turn, much like the classic Flow My Tears, the policeman said, one day he's a nobody. The next day he helps to find this bomb, doing a good job. And he's a somebody. He's a big star. And the next day they pull some other switch. He's a suspect. And then for 4 weeks, they treat him like a suspect, and the media is outside of his house all the time, following him around. The FBI is following him around. They keep trying to entrap him because he's not very bright, and he likes cops. And just a crushing story, true story, based on a true story, based on the books written about him. And great movie. Check it out, Richard Jewell. I really feel for him after watching it. Powerful work by Clint Eastwood to make that happen. So check it out. Hey, we made it to the top. Hey, we made it through the news. We survived. Oh, it's hard to believe. There's so much news these days. It seems like we've been talking for a while, about an hour and a half. I want to go ahead and open it up to phone calls. We didn't really have that many calls yesterday or the day before. Kind of a weekend thing. I don't think people call that much. But if you'd like to call us right now, I'm going to get the number and paste it in the chat. I certainly can't talk very much more, but if you guys want to talk, maybe we'll have a little chat here, keep the show going. You can call us now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. I'll try to keep the show going 5 or 10 more minutes, pick up a couple of your calls if you're around. Otherwise, just going to go on to my Sunday. I got to find a new book to read. I finished my Kindle book. I got to find a new video game to play. I finished my video game I was playing. I think I might go play Watch Dogs 2. I really like Watch Dogs 1. It's kind of a Grand Theft Auto plus hacking, and it's based on a realistic map of the city of Chicago. So it's pretty fun to drive around. Let's see, get the caller here. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. This is Mustafa calling you from KC.
All right. Oh, not Kansas City in Missouri or Kansas City in Kansas.
Actually, KC. Like
a person's name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, a little small town.
Nice.
Anyways, I'm calling you because I've just came to a conclusion that I'm sure your viewers are not going to like. They're already insulting me in the chat, but I'm just going to say it anyways. The virus is fake. The mainstream media is lying to us. Okay. Yesterday, I got 2 phone calls from very close people, family members and friends, that said simultaneously, while the media was reporting a war zone in the hospital, they were right outside the hospital and there was nobody there. There was no lines. There was no hazmat suited medical personnel. There was nothing. One in Brooklyn, New York, and the other was in Orange County, California. Both called me yesterday.
I don't know.
Said,
I mean, did they
what
go?
What the hell is going on?
I don't know, man, that's enough to really say it's fake. I mean, I guess a couple people, the media reports could have been wrong, or they could have been, maybe the action was inside the hospital. Maybe the action was an hour ago.
They were showing footage. They were showing footage of outside the hospital with lines coming all the way outside, and that there was not enough people. There was not enough space to let the people in, or they were over occupied or whatever. And that it was like so hectic, and that it was a war zone, and it looked all, the way they made it look on the news, it was that it's going out of control. But then in reality, the same day, I'm on a video call with these people and there's nobody outside. Absolutely no one. I mean, they got the tents and everything, like all the infrastructure is set up, but no human bodies, no physical, actual people walking around. Nothing, not one.
I don't know. I mean, they do it pretty often where, you know, they have good footage from earlier in the day or good footage from yesterday, and they use the good footage, and maybe they say it's from today. I mean, it seems a lot more likely.
So they fixed it in a day then. So what you're saying is all the people that were, all the overflow in the hospitals they were all cured, or they all got beds in the last 24 hours?
I don't know that your guys really went inside or got a tour of the hospital.
No, they didn't.
Like,
they didn't go inside.
Like, it's not really something that we can, like, if only it was just one hospital. If it was just one hospital in the entire world, and we could say, okay, your guys went to the only hospital in the world that has it, and they didn't see it.
But
that would be
two different hospitals in very big cities, metropolitan cities.
Enough.
One in Orange County and one in New York City.
I wish it was fake. I wish it was all a put-up job, and that they tricked us so we'd be inside, so they take away our rights, and then later on we'll find out about it. We'll get really mad and we'll flip over the table, right? Like, everyone thinks, oh, they put these controls in. You can't flip over the table. Like, look at this thing. Well, this little virus has flipped our table over.
I don't know anybody that knows anyone that's been in contact with this virus. Seriously.
Well, my friend Ben, BTC Socialist, is sick in England. He said it was like stomping on his chest. His little boy is sick. His little girl is sick. My friend Dan in England is sick. He's not been tested. He's out in the country, but he knows. They know what the symptoms are. The symptoms. It's the coronavirus. I mean, we know that guy.
The common flu, right?
I think that we've pretty much seen that this stomping on the chest thing, the extremeness of the pneumonia, losing your sense of smell and taste, seems pretty much in line. Having 100-degree fever seems pretty much in line. I think it lines up.
I don't know, man. I'm not like saying people are lying, but I'm starting to have more doubts every day.
I don't think that's any reason not to wear a mask or any reason not to be protected.
Absolutely not. Like, I'm not telling people to start, go shake hands or whatever, but definitely like open your eyes a little bit more. Stop trusting the mainstream media as much as people have. Like,
but come on,
most
man.
People would
like
say we don't.
If there was a line outside of Tower Records for concert tickets and they reported it on the news and you went down there at 3:00 and there was no line, there could have been a line at 9 a.m. and everyone got their concert tickets and went home. I mean, I really don't think this kind of anecdotal evidence is doing. I mean, if we had a scientist or something saying like there was no virus or some other, I mean, I just won't, like, I wish that this could be true. And I hope that I think that we want it to be true. Like, your friends it's probably comforting, right? If we could say there is no killer virus, like you would say, oh, take a deep breath. Like, that's nice. Like, there's no killer virus, but I don't think.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't say that's nice.
Evidence.
I would say, well, what's the deal? Like, why? If in fact there is no virus, for example, let's just entertain this thought. If there is no virus, then why is the whole world literally on lockdown right now? I know people all over the world. Everyone's in their house. Every country that I know anyone in tells me that they're on lockdown because of this thing. And it seems a little strange, right?
It's the most surreal time of our lives. I mean, it's the strangest time of our lives. I'm an inside guy and I like staying inside as the rest of everybody, but every once in a while I get that idea in my house, like, I'd like to go to a buffet. And it's like, all the casinos are closed, all the buffets are closed. I'm like, I'd like to go to Ross and look at some clothes.
I'm forced to eat fast food now because I can't get a good meal somewhere out on the road because they all shut down and they're scared from bacteria.
Well,
but that's not important.
Too,
that's really not important. I'm fine. I'll eat fast food if that's what it has to do. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that there's something doesn't add up, man. Something just doesn't add up. I've been living in Chicago for a while. I know a lot of people out there. Apparently it's, there's an outbreak in Chicago, but I know hundreds of people there. None of those people know anybody that's been affected.
I don't know. There's like people in the chat that say they have it. There's like, I mean, I have people that I know that have had it. There's a guy that called into the show, said he had it. I mean, I think it's nice to say that it could be a put up job or whatever, and they're all actors or whatever. Like, again, if there wasn't a killer,
and honestly, a lot of people also want to play the victim and say, "Oh my God, I woke up with a headache today and I'm sneezing. I must have the coronavirus." You know, it's there's two sides of this coin. You know, I know a lot of dramatic people that are like, "Oh my God, I might have the coronavirus." I'm like, "Did you get tested?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "All right, so what is it?" He's like, "I don't know. I'm coughing a little bit and stuff, but that's it."
Well, I think a lot of people also want to have this like light version of the coronavirus. I saw it with Boris Johnson. He gets up there and says, "So far my symptoms are light. I'm doing just fine." And it's like, yeah, it's only been a few days, guy. Like, give it a chance. You know, the virus is really good. Like, it's gonna do what it does. Like, it's great to say you feel good now, and I just don't know if he's gonna make a video in 3 days saying the same thing. So yeah, I wish it wasn't real. I wish we could disprove it. I wish even the earlier stories, we used to talk about this more, about where it might have come from or if it came from a weapons lab or whatever. It doesn't matter that much now. Like, what matters now is the virus is out there. We need to kill it. It's spreading. It's invisible. Like, it's taking down people. I don't think that, I mean, I don't know, if he found like a file on a guy's desk or something and he photocopied the file, it would be better evidence. This kind of individual thing, it's a lot more likely that the news media was just kind of using the footage inappropriately, that they'd used yesterday's footage or they used this morning's footage or they didn't put live on it. I mean, Occam's razor is the simplest explanation, is the most likely to be true. So
I don't know.
Come on, man.
Like I said, I'm having doubts.
But even you, man, all these people,
so many doubts, man.
All these people in India that are sick, all these people in the UK that are sick, all these people in all these different countries. Like, I mean,
if you haven't seen them firsthand, like personally,
but that's
saw
like,
them in front of you, I think there's plausible deniability there. There's
I don't know,
plausible.
Man. Are you
friends
with any Major League Baseball players?
No.
Well, how could they exist if you haven't met them personally? If you're not friends with them and I'm not friends with them, how could there be any Major League Baseball players in this world? Like, I've never,
Well, I mean, because you see them, you see them, right? Day in, day out.
We see the sick people with the virus.
This is something.
We see the morgues. We see.
Yeah, but do you see the virus? The virus itself is an invisible enemy, right?
I see the virus when I look at these people coughing. When I see people coughing, I see the virus. When I see them with a little oxygen thing in their nose and they're telling me that oxygen's a hell of a drug, I see the virus. When they describe people stomping on their chest and the need for ventilators, and when they're in these little like locked boxes, when they're in these isolation locked boxes at hospitals, I see the virus. I mean, no, I don't know, man. I wish it wasn't true, and I wish we could just, wish it away. And I'm not doubting your buddy saw an empty hospital or whatever. I'm doubting more likely that the news aired the footage properly. I don't think. And again, if they want to camp out of the hospital and keep updating us and keep saying that things aren't happening and do some reports, I would look at their reports. I would read their blog or whatever. But I just don't think over a sustained amount of time that they're going to be able to maintain that level of non-evidence. I think if they study,
I think you're right. I think somebody that's well qualified for that, some type of freelance reporter or something, need to really like fact check the media, man, because I feel like the people are being taken advantage of right now. Everybody's scared. Everybody's staying at home.
I think they're getting taken advantage of.
What's really going on outside?
I agree with the people in the chat. They're getting taken advantage of, being sent to the beach. These failed governments around them that are not protecting them. The idea that we don't have coronavirus here yet is a reason not to prepare or not to prevent it. It's an anti-human idea. Like, that's like, I don't really care if you live or die. I'll care later. Like, you have to care before. Like, preventative is the only way to beat this. And that's, you put the physical distance in before. Like, you don't put it in after. Like, it doesn't much matter.
That's true, man. And in a way, that's really showing, that's showing people's, moral compass. It's bringing the true color of of personalities and humanity of certain areas of the country and the world of how people are handling this shit. Like, I got a lot of friends in Egypt, and their form of stimulus package for the people was an extra 30 gigabytes of data on their mobile plans, and they were like, there you go, you get to watch more YouTube videos. We're gonna give you 30 gigs a month extra on your plan for free. And I was talking to some friends, and they're like, they were actually kind of happy about it. They're like, hey, look, we got something for it. It's a positive side of this shit. And I'm like, yeah, better than nothing, I guess.
Well,
but
if you really,
I don't know.
If you really want something to freak out about on, something that we don't have any evidence on, but we've heard little whisperings of, what if this thing gets into the food supply? What if animals get sick from the coronavirus too? And what if we can't eat them anymore? That's what.
Then everybody has to be vegetarian.
That's your creepy.
Oh, no!
That's your creepy. And again, I got no evidence. I'm not saying anything. I don't know nobody or nothing. I got nothing. But if I wanted to say, if there was something not to talk about right now, I wouldn't talk about that.
Right.
So as opposed to, if this hospital is full or that hospital is full, like it seems pretty clearly all the hospitals will be full in a week. Like, check back in a week. I mean, it's gonna, and if it doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen, great.
Yeah, hopefully I'm still alive in a week, and I'll call back and
in a week, if your guys go back down there and they're like, holy shit, that thing is full. Like, I don't know what was going on a few weeks ago. That was weird, but it's full now. Like, it's scary full. And I mean, there's a lot of articles and reports about ER doctors and so on and so forth just losing their shit in New York City. And I remember New York City is kind of perfect for this, right? It's all stacked on top of each other. Everybody lives close together. Everybody shares subway and buses and everything. Everything's touched. So it's a perfect place for this. So yeah, I would keep an eye on that. We'll just have to see how it goes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, man. And I'm gonna do the best I can to keep moving around this country and keep checking places, because I just don't believe it. I'm not convinced, and like you said, hopefully I'm right. I want to be right. Maybe it's my subconscious trying to like deny the fact that the world is fucking falling apart. And but who knows? I'm gonna keep trying to figure this out, and I'll report back from wherever I am tomorrow.
Yeah,
and let you guys know what I found or what I didn't find. It's
a strong thing. I mean, I think we all want this not to be here. Every once in a while I wake up and I think I'm not in this world. I'm in the normal world where I can just go to the store and like nothing matters. But yeah, I'm not so sure. I think that's wishful thinking. But thanks, Mustafa, for sharing your theory, even though the chat's being mean to you. And I think it's worth talking.
Fine.
It's worth talking about these kind of things.
I'm not worried about that.
So, like, I mean, your friends, saw
absolutely.
something, they believe something. I'm not sure about it. You're not sure about it, but we can put this out here. We can agree or disagree, and we can just keep moving with this. So, thanks so much for the call.
Yeah, exactly. And these people, I'm just going to tell them, go back, pass by there once a day or every other day and see if there's actually people outside. If there's, every time you see the news saying, oh, look at the hospital, it's overflowing with patients and everyone's dying and this and that. Well, let's actually take a look, like, with our own eyes.
Well, and I'd also say there, one of the most interesting things about 9/11 for me, I went like around our house and I gathered up all the TVs and put them in one room and tuned them to different channels so I could try to, get a better idea of what was going on. And what I failed to do at that time, and I will not fail to do again, is I didn't have the Spanish channel on. On the Spanish channel on 9/11, they showed people jumping out of buildings. This is, reporting the reality that was happening. The other channels did not show it. Just like right now, like you're saying, I think that the media is still filtering this. I'm not seeing a lot of dead bodies on the TV. I'm not seeing active wrecked hospital rooms. I'm seeing more after wrecked hospital rooms, perhaps to protect people's privacy, so on and so forth. But at a certain point, as a real journalist, you got to show the bodies. You got to show the sick. Like, you have to, like you're saying, like we don't want to see it, but we need to see it.
Actually any bodies.
I think there's a shit ton of bodies, man. I'm afraid how many bodies.
I mean, you're saying there's no proof. Like, they're not really showing it. So how can you really prove that?
Well, we know that there was no pollution in China and that the crematoriums in Wuhan started kicking off to a level to cause pollution. So we know crematoriums in Wuhan were kicking off. We know that in Iran, again, these are closed societies from the outside, but what we can tell from looking, we have satellite images of Iran. We can see the corpses. We can see the burials, the graves, the large mass graves in Iran.
Right, but there's still a lot of ways all that can be doctored. What I'm talking about is actually physically seeing it yourself.
Satellite to satellite. I don't think Iran's just digging graves for no reason. I mean, they're not a great government. They're not that bad at government though. So
I don't know what's happening, man. But I'm just saying, people just don't believe everything you're seeing on the news right now. Okay, there must be some. It can't all be true. That's all I'm saying.
Well, unless it is. But we'll see. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Mustafa. Give us a call anytime, and just keep traveling around, keeping an eye on things, seeing what's going on out there.
For sure. Checking back in with you guys tomorrow, man.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Thanks so much. And if you'd like to call now, you can go and call us on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 1-518-600-1949. There we go. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Tommy, my boy. It's Martin from San Jose. How's it going?
It's going good, man. How's it hanging?
All right. I've been listening to the previous caller. I've been getting a little bit heated. Admittedly, I was making fun of the guy in the chat.
Well, and he's a nice guy. He calls all the time. He might be wrong on this one, but it's okay to be wrong on one every once in a while. Part of it is, let's say, that this is a theory and that he's wrong. Well, by addressing the theory, we're now going to figure out if it's right or wrong. We're going to try to understand it. And just like, there are no stupid questions, I'll bet a lot of other people are thinking the same thing. They're thinking, we haven't seen enough bodies. We haven't seen enough hospitals, rocking and rolling out of control. And again, this might be our stupid bullshit American media hiding the truth from us, which again, we don't show corpses and bodies on TV since the Vietnam War, because they figured out if you show corpses and bodies on TV, people won't support the war effort. Like, you can't do it. So, and in the same way, they won't let you, like, if we showed all the starvation that was caused by our policies, or if we had a channel that was like nonstop Syrian refugees channel, and it's just like, imagine, life was normal. You had a house and things were fine. Your house got bombed. You don't have your credentials anymore. You're no longer a doctor. You don't have anything except the clothes on your back, and you're in a pile with a bunch of other people going country to country getting rejected. That'd be a good TV show. Like, that would be heartbreaking. And maybe it would change people's opinion on refugees. But we don't do that. We do shows like 600 Pound Life, where they just follow them around and they're fat. And I mean, they help them. I think they help them a little, but generally it's, just following around, people that ate too much food or had emotional issues and all kinds of other things. It's not their fault, but we don't follow around like the serious things. We're not even like diseases and stuff. How about just a channel of people who are dying from incurable diseases and we just film them all the time? I mean, we just don't do this. Like, maybe I know why. You couldn't put commercials on it. Like, no one's going to advertise on the disease channel or the Syrian refugee channel or the real bodies of war. Real bodies of war. See the Civil War the way it was meant to be seen, with a pile of your, brothers dead next to you. Like, no, we just don't do that. And it's horseshit.
Humanity is too real. It's too real. They don't want people to panic, because as soon as people start seeing that, I mean, then you're going to have a real run on food. You're going to have real supply line issues. As soon as people start seeing those bodies and they know the gravity of the situation, it's going to get real. They just pulled up 48. What are they? Like the ice boxes for the bodies in New York. They brought them to one of the NYC hospitals.
Oh yeah, the refrigerator trucks. Yeah, they're putting them in refrigerator
trucks.
Bodies
on ice.
They were also saying
put them on ice, man.
I think there was an ice rink where they're just gonna fill the ice rink with bodies on stretchers. And
that's dark.
Yeah, I mean, in addition, like the Javits Center, I think it's a convention center. So normally it would be like, CES and like our new announcements and our new cool technologies and all these guys shaking hands and giving out business cards. No, that's where they put the temporary hospital beds. They're doing the same thing in Sacramento. They might take Arco Arena, where the Kings used to play, and turn that into hospital beds and soccer fields and other arenas all over the country. The things that we were critical and questioning of China, how can you build a hospital in 2 weeks and all these kind of things we used to say, and all what's happening here. So yeah,
they'll take the sports venues of the teams that they canceled.
I know.
And they'll be hospitals.
Hospitals. I mean, I already said the hotels, like right here in Las Vegas. I don't know that they're going to do it. Certainly private property and all those kind of things. But if they did it, they could fly people in on the airport, take them to the hotels, put them in certain floors. They have lots of cameras. They have lots of security and access controls. They have washing machines, food, kitchens, all the equipment that you need to feed people, because that's how they live at the casino anyway. So, yeah, I'm not sure why they're not doing that. I think they will eventually, but yeah.
They'll use eminent domain if it gets bad enough. That's for sure.
And all that stuff like you need to do sooner. Like you can't properly eminent domain a hospital, set up 200 beds in the middle of a crisis if your 150 workers are already sick. You got to get it before the workers are sick. You got to get it before, and if you have to fight with a landlord for a day, or if you, whatever, there's some kind of issues, like all this thing takes time. Like you can't just snap your fingers and do it. That's why that's why they had that 69-page binder from the National Security Council on how to handle a pandemic. You just follow the steps in the book. Like you just call this guy, get these, there's a book, and you don't think about it. You're not like, oh, this step's bullshit, or I wonder why we're doing this. You're like, somebody smarter than me took a lot of time to build this binder. They wrote it down. They thought about a lot. Multiple drafts went into this. And now that the crisis is here, not that you don't have to think, but if the military idea, the NASA idea, you bring out the binder with the instructions and you just go through the instructions. Don't know why we didn't do that.
No, you didn't do that. Just toss it up on the shelf, let it collect dust, put your feet up on the desk, and you're president now. You run the world. You don't have to worry about that sort of shit.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
But I got to say, normalcy bias is a bitch, man. And obviously it's so surreal. Like you said, wake up in the morning and you feel like this can't be happening. This just seems so odd, right? We've never been through anything like this. Ever.
There's just nothing. There's nothing normal you can do. You wake up and you're like, I want to go get some bacon and eggs, read a newspaper, sit at a diner. Every diner in town's closed. Like that's impossible. Like every single one, they're all closed, and with good reason. If we went there, we'd increase our chance of infection. We increase our chance of spreading the infection. Like we just can't do that right now. So
yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. The other thing too, I understand the suspicion of what the media is, what they're portraying, but like you said, I'm more inclined to believe it's the opposite direction. It is far worse than what they're letting on. That they're not showing the bodies. They don't want people to panic. They don't want people to panic. And the other thing I want to say about people that don't believe this is real, like I keep dealing with that with some of my family members, and it's like my dad, for instance. It's not real, and my mom's got an autoimmune disorder, so I worry about them. And he's going out to the grocery store. I'm like, you guys can order food. You don't need to go out there and jeopardize yourself. Look, you're gonna believe so much that it's not real that you're potentially gonna risk your life over that. You don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what the fuck's going on. So the best thing to do is just hang tight. Is it really that hard? Just hang out. What are you gonna do? Just like people were called to war before. People throughout history, and you probably know this, you're well read on history, they've been besieged thousands of years, warring bandits.
Well, think about Stalingrad. Think about being locked down, surrounded by German forces, starving, freezing, no technology, no little iPhone, no thousands of episodes of TV to watch, and the Germans are going to come at any time. These people are starving. Thousands died in the siege of Stalingrad. If we stay home and eat the ramen, eat the tuna fish, eat whatever food you have till it's gone, and then order more or go out or whatever. But let's just stay inside as long as we can and do nothing. And I agree. I think it's hard for the older generation. They're active people. We were talking a lot about retirement and what it does to you, and just that you kind of have this freedom. You go out and do whatever you want. You're retired. Who gives an F, right? That's not true right now. Like, now we have the freedom to stay home. I've seen a lot of great articles talking about generational differences. And recently, the ones I've been seeing have been praising Generation X, which is kind of my generation. I'm right in between X and Y, whether we want to call Y millennials or actually say that it's Gen Y like it used to be. But they said that Generation X is prepared for this, that we've been training to be antisocial our whole lives. We were the first latchkey kids. We'd come home and eat food, have a snack, do our homework. No one needs to take care of us. And we'd watch lots of TV and music videos all day, and just the incredible preparation of our generation. So shout out to Gen Xers or Gen Yers like me. We can stay home. We can watch movies. But I agree, everyone else is going to have a problem with it.
Yeah. The boomers, they just can't handle it. When you're older, it's harder to grasp new information. And I think it's a little bit difficult for them to comprehend, because things have been a certain way for so long that, people have the mindset, oh, it won't affect me. It won't affect me. And I'm worried that these people, it won't really hit home until someone close to them gets it, or they start seeing the trucks like in Italy filled with bodies.
Well, I think all humans are always that way. I mean, we always have to have it proved to us. We think back to the Bible, and doubting Thomas put his hands inside of Jesus's wounds. He did not believe it. He had to actually touch the wounds. Like, it's a pretty weird thing.
Unreal.
I don't think we'll believe this till it happens. I remember the 2008 crisis. All kinds of people were losing their mortgages and their homes and so on and so forth. And I thought that I would skate right by it. I was like, I got a sweet job. I work with these cool corporate lawyers. They got lots of good clients. Like, I just keep going to work every day. I ignore this thing. But no, it got to me too. The corporate clients started to dry up. They started to go with larger and larger firms. And then my lawyers went and they merged with another firm, and they didn't take me with them. So the 2008 crisis got to me eventually. It didn't matter that I had a good job or that I was skilled or good at my job and all these things. At a certain point, their business didn't make sense anymore. They wanted to be part of a bigger business to have more protections. And that bigger business had a giant IT staff already. They didn't need a one-man fix-it-all shop guy like me or whatever. So I was unemployed, and that was that. So same thing with this virus. You're thinking it's going to skate over us. I was like, oh, Bitcoin will be fine. It's a safe haven, all that stuff. 50% drop. Woof. So when the total market crashes, when everything goes down, even your favorite thing like Bitcoin goes down. So just got to remember that for next time. We got to be more protective.
That reminds me of something.
Yeah.
For sure. That reminds me of something I wanted to mention, that, for people who are short on rent, or they can't pay their bill or whatever. I think you mentioned this briefly. Just call those places up. And if you only have a quarter to pay, if you don't have any at all, you just tell them your situation. They'll understand. It's like everybody is losing money right now. I mean, I lost a ton. My Bitcoin was my savings account. I had a ton of money in there. I worked all this last year and just put everything I had in there because I thought, oh yeah, safe haven. The market's super high. It's bound for correction. I'm going to be I'm hurting like the rest, man. We all are. We're all losing out a little bit. Hopefully not too much more, but if you talk to people, everybody's going through it. Everyone's going through it.
And it's all through no fault of their own. These people didn't lose their jobs because they're bad at them, or because they didn't show up, or because they didn't want to work. Nobody's working right now. So if you need to call your bills, I know I'm a proud person. I pay my bills. I even paid off my credit cards. I probably could have negotiated with them, but I paid them because I put those debts up, so I pay it. But put that aside right now. if you don't have the money, or you think you might not have the money in a few months, it's better to not pay your credit card or not pay your rent now. Call them up, tell them it's coronavirus, tell them you need a couple months or something. Try to work with them. It's better to do that now than to run out of money completely in a few months. So if you're out of work and you haven't gotten unemployment yet and you're not sure when it's going to come in, keep that money, use it for food rather than sending it to credit cards or rent right now. And again, normally I wouldn't say this.
Extra. Normally
I'm like, let's pay our bills, let's pay our debts. Responsible people.
No.
This is a special
food.
crisis.
Yeah. And now is not the time to have pride. People have to humble themselves. The whole, it won't affect me. This is not real. Like I said, I'm struggling with that with my family.
Well, it's like Ving Rhames said in Pulp Fiction about pride. He's like, pride fucks with you. Pride only hurts. You got to do what's right for you. You got to, you got to throw this fight. And of course he doesn't. But pride. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, pride will get you killed. Pride will get you killed. And it serves a purpose. It's good to be confident, but you also got to accept reality. And I understand it's hard for people. I was having panic attacks, man. I was freaking out. I'm still on edge. You look at the news, we got cases doubling. I mean, now we're at the point, we got over 125,000 cases in the U.S. It's doubling like every, how many days now is it?
It's every 3 to 4 days in the U.S. It's pretty tight. And I would have thought, I'm always into these magic numbers. So in my mind, once it hit 100,000 infected, I thought everyone would wake up and they'd be like, okay, it's serious now. Like we had our debate time and it was fun, but 100,000, this thing spreads really good. Like it's a really good spreader. Like we need to shut down the beaches. We need to stay home. But no, they still have the beaches open. Like the spring break guys, they had video and they were all, bragging and invincible. And then we had the follow-up video a few days later where they're like, they're all sorry and infected. But it still hasn't woken people up. Yeah, they were.
I was thinking, I'm glad I'm not that age when this happened, because I would have been just as stupid too. I would have been just as stupid. I'm older. I'm 30 years old. I have some sense about me. Not a whole lot, but enough to see that this ain't bullshit.
It's hard to say I wouldn't have been one of those kids out there taking the cheap trip to Venice, walking around the empty streets, and then getting stuck in an Italian hospital with like 5 words of Italian to my name. I think it could be pretty bad. Yeah.
It could have been one of us, man. Those kids are dumb.
Yeah.
You think you're invincible. You think that won't affect me. But man, it's getting out of control. But the one thing I say to the people that deny it as well is, it's not just here. It's everywhere. You're talking about India. Like people think that this is a Trump thing to take down the deep state. We're locking up Bill Gates, the kitty diddler, and all this other shit. And it boggles the mind. So India is in on this too. They have a interest in our affairs, that they locked their country down too, so we could arrest the big wigs here. And I'm not saying that there isn't some messed up stuff going on, because there most assuredly is. But I mean, it's just out of control, man. It's out of control. It's going to get crazier too.
Well,
we
I think
gotta hang tight.
It's just people don't want this to be true. Like we've got, I forget the stages, but the stages of grief, and that we're in, maybe they're in the denial stage where they're like, no, the virus isn't real and it's a government conspiracy and and yes, we want those things to be true. We want it, we want the denial. Like it's comforting to us. In some ways, as horrifying as it would be, a global, super evil conspiracy to trick us all into staying inside and ruin the economy would be more comforting than an unkillable virus, right? Because at least the conspiracy has faces. At least they did it for a reason. You know, they wanted $1 million or whatever. They had a reason. Whereas the virus, like, we're never going to have a satisfactory interview with the virus where it's like, I did it for this. I wanted to grow. I am a virus. Like, virus don't give a, it doesn't care at all. It doesn't have any motivations. We can't really understand it. I mean, the closest to understanding the virus would be obviously, something like science fiction, things like Star Trek and the Borg, the way the Borg just, resistance is futile. You will be assimilated. Like, that's the virus, right? And we go up and we try to negotiate with the Borg, and we try to like be friends with them, or we try to, give them their space, and maybe they won't come into our space. Maybe the Borg will stay in their space, and they don't, because they're a virus and they spread, and that's what they do, planet by planet. Cybernetic organism, same thing here, planet by planet coronavirus. It's just a really good virus.
Human by human.
Yeah, human by human. So.
Yep. Well, on that note, I'll keep watching the show, and thanks for doing this.
Well, thanks so much for the call, and let's be fair to Mustafa. I mean, people see these things. We need to talk about them. It's getting this issue out there. Like, and again, there are no stupid questions. I mean, there really are, but they all. It looks like we're getting called, but they all generate discussion, even questionable questions. So.
And to be fair, I admire that kind of like that questioning of what's being told. That's for real, and he had the courage to call up and voice his opinion, and good on him. I'm still going to call him a dumbass.
Well, we all got to go our own ways, but thanks again, Martin, for the call, and give us a call anytime, man. All right.
Thanks. All right, man. Bye-bye.
All right, looks like we might have another call. Caller, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. You have some echo, but what's your name and where are you calling from? Maybe just give us a comment or something if we have a delay or an echo. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Sebastian again. Can you hear me now?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, great. I also want to comment on the previous caller. First, let me say one thing. I think it's really good he keeps a critical eye open. It's really inherent to us Bitcoiners. Don't trust, verify. So I think it's a good thing he keeps thinking critically and don't trust just everything the news says. Having said that, I've multiple arguments why I think he's on the wrong end here. And the first thing is, I know a friend of mine has lost someone who's 64 years old, perfectly healthy. I know someone who works in a hospital in the south of the Netherlands where it's like really, it hit really hard there. So there's no way denying for me that there's something here. Secondly, you have to think, if this like one big conspiracy, who is benefiting, and follow the money? Because if they really want to do something like a big virus thing and keep us under control, they're hurting themselves, because they already had the possibilities to have perfect control over us. And now their system, which gives them money, is breaking down. So it doesn't work for them. I had one other argument. It's like, I think the media isn't over-exaggerating the situation. I think it's quite the opposite. Like Trump and all the other world leaders are always saying, no, the virus is not so bad. No, it's not a problem. And the media is repeating that for quite some time, until the point really came that I couldn't deny it anymore. Those are kind of my points.
I definitely agree with you that they're not making a lot of money on this. Like taking down the markets is not really good for anybody, ruining the airlines and the cruises and the travel and the Airbnb and all the restaurants. It's not really good for anybody. There are some people, I mean, they bet don't pass on the craps game. They bet against you all the time. So it is possible. Maybe they put a bunch of nasty shorts on things. Maybe they have some kind of business that benefits when all the other worlds are destroyed. But again, that's a bigger reach than just making money the normal way. Making money the normal way, they were doing plenty fine, right? So
true. There are always people benefiting, and I've no doubt that there will be some governments who will take draconian measurements, and they will not put them away when this virus is over. But if this really was one orchestrated big effort, then it has to be so incredibly deep state level bad shit, because they involve China, India, United States, all of them together. They played it really, really well if this was just one conspiracy theory to just implement a virus somewhere and get all the media in the whole world to get along with it. It's perfectly orchestrated. So I think humankind is not capable of planning such an immense, great, bad, evil plan. I mean, they can think of it, but actually doing that is like next level. So therefore, I don't think that's the case.
Well, let me creep everybody out with another plot from a Philip K. Dick book. There's this Philip K. Dick book. I think it's The Penultimate Truth, but sometimes I get the titles on these wrong. But the basic plot of the book is that the U.S. and the Soviet Union, Cold War times, were about to have a war, and they were going to have a nuclear war, and they were going to wreck everything, right? So both the U.S. and the Soviet Union say to their people, go down into these bunkers. So the people go down in the bunkers, and there's all these factories, and they can work and live underground, and they can make robots that will be sent up to fight the war, right? But then once they got everybody in the bunkers, the leaders of the Soviets and the U.S. come together and have a meeting, and they decide that we shouldn't wreck everything. So instead, and this is, again, Philip K. Dick, before computer graphics, before Star Wars, before Blade Runner, which he wrote too, all these things, he has the idea that they'll create computer graphic fakes of, say, San Francisco being ruined by nuclear bombs and Moscow being ruined by nuclear bombs. And they'll play these videos down in the things and make the people stay down there and make them make these robots. And then when the robots come up, they convert the robots from war robots to gardeners. And the rich are now living on these massive estates the size of Wyoming, just chilling out, doing nothing, while all the normal people are down in these bunkers building robots. And of course, it has a little bit of Play-Doh in there, of course, where the guy goes up and he sees this world and he comes back down and he tries to tell the people and they don't believe him. Just like Play-Doh said.
Yeah.
So that's a really good plot.
That's a really nice story.
Yeah. So that could be, however, I mean, that'd be horrible.
Of course, there's 0.001 probability. There always is. But what does it take for a group of people to actually pull that trick? And is that even like remotely feasible? And does the guy who thinks it's not in that the news is that the media is exaggerating, is he thinking that this is happening? Because otherwise, what is happening according to him?
Yeah.
Why is the media exaggerating? There's no reason. They have they have reasons to do the opposite, and that's what they were doing, saying that it's not that bad, and until they couldn't anymore. So that's what happened in my view, and I wonder what he thinks about that. And also, the United States it's a large place, and a couple 100,000 people got infected. That sounds a lot, but if you see the land masses on which it happened, it's not that weird that you haven't come across anyone who had the virus yet. I mean, it's a pretty big country. In the Netherlands, it's quite small, and we already have like 1,500 or no 3,000 people infected, and because we live on such a small area, the chances are quite big that you actually know someone or encounter someone who has it. Those chances are just way smaller in the United States, so it's not weird that he doesn't met someone or know someone who has it.
Yeah.
And yeah, what
well, and give it time, and you'll know someone who has it, or you'll know someone who has it. I mean, it's going to happen.
I sincerely hope he's right, or not. But if he's right, then the scenario that from the book that you were talking about, then that would be a situation. So that would be terrible.
Yeah, we've got a whole nother problem.
I don't know what I hope for more. But
It would be great, and at least we can all agree that yes, we all, like, our minds don't want this to be real. Like when his friends went down there and saw these things, they were relieved, right? They were like, thank goodness it's a conspiracy. Thank goodness it's not a killer virus. Like this makes me feel good, right? Maybe I can go out again and go to movies and stuff. But no, it's not wishful thinking. Yeah, it's wishful thinking.
Yeah. But unfortunately, I've already witnessed some stuff, and I know someone who lost someone, and I know someone who works in a hospital in the south of the Netherlands, and situation over there isn't normal. Like, there's always a season that there are more people with flus, and it's more crowded, but this is more than that, way more than that. And there's this village in the Netherlands, that so many people are dying at the moment that there are sometimes not enough, like, death. How do you call it?
Like a body bag or a.
Yeah, no, just where you buried them in. How do you call it?
So like a grave or a morgue or something.
They cannot deal with this much dead people. That's what it comes down to. So. Of course, there are always seasons where more people die than usual, but this is even more unusual than the unusual. So you cannot say that there's nothing happening, because it's quite easy to verify for me here in the Netherlands. It's a much smaller place, and therefore it's much more visible.
It's very sad to hear that about the Netherlands too. I got to visit there a couple of times. It was really nice. And I heard really good things about their medical system and their government, the way they treat the people, the real estate market, all kinds of other things where they have all these protections that we just don't have. And I would hope they deal with it better, but it just shows the severity of this thing. Yeah, even they aren't prepared. Even they aren't ready. So
no, we were too late. Our government reacted too late, like 2 or 3 weeks too late, and the intensive care can still handle it, but they're at like 95% capacity right now, and if it gets any worse, then shit's gonna hit the fan. So I really hope that won't happen, and maybe they can stretch their capacity if the new infected people stay away long enough, then they can increase capacity soon enough. So then there won't be that much of a problem of overcapacity, of undercapacity. Sorry, but it's getting on the edge. It's getting close, and
it's gonna get worse before it gets better. And that's the hardest part about any of these things is that, long term, like 6 months, we're probably, if we make it through this, if we stay inside, if we're not in the target groups, if we get a ventilator, whatever it is, if we live through this thing in 6 months, we'll be okay. But it's gonna, it's that tough medicine. Like, we're gonna see it get worse and hopefully get better. But it's gonna get worse.
Yeah, there's probably a vaccine. It takes like 6 months to develop. So somewhere in September, because I think the Chinese already started on its way sooner. This maybe in September, there's some vaccine available. They're testing right now. But in the meantime, we will see second waves, because a lot of countries are now with their lockdowns flattening the curve, but not everyone has the virus. And therefore, that's what you see in China right now. They almost smack the curve. But what you see right now is that some people are getting infected because there was this one little person left over that had the virus. And if not everyone is immune to it, then you can start all over again and you've got this second wave. So that's also a risk. And the multiple waves, I don't know how much you will get. That only stops when you have a vaccine or some other medicine that really, really eliminates the virus. So yeah, it will take some time before this will go away, and we hopefully it doesn't mutate in the meantime. So
we can't stay inside forever, but then again, we just might.
No, true.
You know, a lot of us can work from home. A lot of us are used to this, got the books, got a little bit of savings. We can try to hang on, you know, but
that's the problem. Eventually people won't hang on. People will just go outside because they will be like, screw this. I won't stay inside anymore. I'll risk it. And quarantine breach. And that's when you get the second wave or third.
Scary stuff, man. Scary stuff.
Yeah, well, we'll get past this, but it's going to take some time.
We'll just
effort.
We'll just have to keep going and just keep positive about this, but keep in mind of the potential downsides. But thank you so much for the call, and give us a call anytime. I'll always appreciate hearing from you.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Let's see if we have any more phone calls out there. You can call us now at 1-518-600-1949. That's 001 if you want to call internationally. Or you can call us on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. I want to give a shout out to Dan in the chat. Dan arrived late and he missed me talking about The Curse of Lono, a very big book. He says he's a big fan of Hunter S. Thompson, so maybe he's read it before. Here's a random page. It's all text. Let me find you a good picture or two to highlight the power of Ralph Steadman and Hunter S. Thompson, The Curse of Lono. Classic. Sorry, I can't really see the screen when I hold these up. So yeah, there's some crazy fishing that Thompson's doing in Hawaii. I don't know what this is. This is very white, kind of using a lot of white space in the artwork there from Steadman. Somebody sick in bed, out of control. Let me get some of the marathon runners. Much like when he went to cover here's the surfers. I'm going to spill my water. Once like when he went to cover the Kentucky Derby with Steadman, and Steadman drew it. Let's see, maybe a little up and over this way. There you go. But yeah, Steadman drew the whole crazy thing. And so just like the Kentucky Derby, but this one, he went to cover the Honolulu Marathon in Hawaii. So it was pretty crazy and pretty out of control. And he also gets involved in the whole Captain Cook thing, about how first they thought he was a king and then they ate him because he was the king. So Hunter's kind of a reincarnation of Captain Cook or something like that in the book, and it's all interconnected, and it's a great story, both the words and the pictures. But yeah, I was very lucky. When I was in college, they had a copy of this book at the library, and I checked it out, and I kind of copied it and made my own PDF version. And then someone else stole it, enterprising bastards. But at least I had a copy first. And later on, Taschen, this fantastic book company, makes big books. I think Taschen means table in German. But they make great big books. And they made this fantastic Curse of Lono edition. And this is my big book for Sunday. You can see it's pretty huge. So, and if you check earlier in the show, I also covered the book. Talked a little bit about the chess pieces, had some cool readings, and then we opened it up for phone calls, and we actually had some phone calls, so it was pretty cool. It's a good show. We started a little bit early today. I started at 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock because I was up. I didn't have anything else to do. So I was like, let's just start this thing. So we've been going for about 2 hours and 24 minutes. Can try to keep it open 6 more minutes, maybe one more phone call if you guys want to call, like they're saying on the chat. You do have to be brave to call. The chat can be a little rough, but I think it's a great chance to share your opinions, maybe a local story about how it's like where you live. And I just think we've had a lot of good callers. I want to, again, just appreciate Mustafa. Like, he gave us this conspiracy theory. A lot of people don't believe in it, but I think it was positive to talk about it. I think that we were able to talk about that we don't want this to be real, and we would love it if it's a conspiracy theory. And sure, it's a whole different problem. We have, humans to fight, but humans are a lot easier to fight and to understand than this virus. So it's probably wishful thinking on our side. I was going to see if I had any more cool Thompson or Stedman books right nearby me. I know I have the biography of Stedman. He's talking about Thompson, but I don't think it's handy. So maybe on another day I'll do more Hunter S. Thompson books. I do have both of his letters books. In the old days, people used to write letters, and really cool authors like Thompson wrote all of his letters on carbon paper. So we have copies of them. Those are cool books. I've actually read them all the way through. It's not too easy to write, to read letter books, but they're interesting. It's kind of like a biography, but the person doesn't write it. They just, express everything that's going on. Because a lot of times, before you had cell phones and before you had video conferencing, you would write a letter to your friend and you'd tell them all about what's happening and what you're mad about, what you're into. And certainly Thompson did that as well. And also for an author like Thompson, writing letters, even writing emails, was like a warm-up for writing the rest of the things he was going to write. Here we go. Let's see. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is Joel, and I'm calling from Barcelona, Spain.
All right, Joel, what's on your mind about Bitcoin or the virus or anything we talked about today?
Well, I would like to share with you guys, because I'm in Spain, where things are quite intense. Like we're in the middle of the pandemic right now, and I see a lot of different opinions and theories. And well, I'd like to share my own opinion.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So one thing is, like, most of the people dying here are very old. Doesn't mean that if you're young you can't get affected, but the mortality rate is kind of a deceiving metric, because a lot of the cases that are diagnosed are from people that actually go to the hospital and they can actually get the test. And there are a lot of people in their houses that are sick and they don't get tested. So the cases are a lot more than they appear, but they're not counted as active cases. So the mortality rate is most likely actually much lower. That doesn't mean that this is not serious. It doesn't mean that you can't get sick. I actually have plenty of friends that have a fever now. But it's kind of to give a little bit of hope, because it's not as bad from like that in that sense. That being said, like from a social and economic standpoint, there have been a lot of people getting fired, and there's a lot of social turmoil. And I don't really know what to say about Bitcoin and whether or not I'm bullish in it. I've loved Bitcoin since 2014, but I also think when people need food, or when the average person doesn't have anything to buy food with, I don't know like what's the reaction that most people will have,
It's been difficult on all the investment channels too. They talk about how they're used to kind of making money with their money, this passive income that a lot of us got from the stock market or they got from Bitcoin. And I don't know if it's going to be there. Like they said some of their classic investing things. They're like, okay, Apple has a lot of money. BMW has a lot of money. So these are good buys, because they're essentially rich companies that could weather the storm. But at the same time, another guy at the desk pointed up, he said, who's going to want a BMW after this is over? Who's going to want a luxury car? Like, we're going to want, good gas mileage cars. We're going to want lots of face masks. We're going to want a lot more food at home. But who's going to be out there buying luxury items? So it might take longer for that market to recover. I think we're really in a huge economic slowdown, and that might be a bigger problem than the coronavirus. But once again, the only way we could find out the virus is a big problem or not is by social isolating, letting it run its course, see how we survive. So
Exactly. And another thing is, like, I also want to point out, people here in Spain, a lot of the good of humanity is also coming out. Like, I'm getting to talk to a lot of neighbors that I haven't even spoken to. A lot of people are in their balconies playing music, trying to, like, lift the spirits of people through this crisis, right? And there's also a lot of people, like, donating masks and trying to help the poor. So I'd like to also say that we human beings, we have this innate capability to go through difficult times, through crises, and it's important not to let ourselves fall into fear, into hate, into pointing fingers, because we do have the resources inside of us to help each other out and to weather this storm. This is not the first time that humanity has been through hard times. This is not the first time that we deal with hard and difficult times, and it's very important keep our minds clear and to really do our best, because this is all we have. It's ourselves. It's our network. So this is the time to truly, like, help each other and try to do the best we can for our brothers, our neighbors, and the people around us, because I think this can truly help humanity in some way get together and find out what's the most important, you know?
I definitely agree. I think it's a really positive sentiment, and I agree with you. There's a lot of, as bad as this thing is, there's a lot of good coming out of it. A lot of connections are being made. A lot of neighbors are discovering their neighbors. I know a lot of my friends are having these multi-person Zoom chats, and you really find out who your friends are. Your friends are the ones sticking with you through this. They're the ones that are calling you even though you don't go to the club anymore. The things you had in common, you might not have in common right now. Like, those are your real friends. And I think a lot of people are finding those people and just finding how connected we are. So I think it could be a positive amidst all this negative. So.
Exactly. And also from an economical standpoint, I find that a lot of the companies that have been solvent, that have been responsible with their finances, that have solid teams will also be able to weather it, albeit, of course, having a lot of issues. But I think that this is, in some sense, a natural purge for a lot of systems and a lot of different companies and overall systems in different industries and sectors to change and to truly adapt to a new reality, right? Like, you don't really know what you're made of until you face a challenge and difficulties. So I think that in the long term, this might bring positive changes. But right now, just like you said, things are going to get worse before they get better. And it's important that we protect the elderly, we protect the weak in our communities, and we truly need to be careful with our hygiene, wearing masks. This is stuff. I understand that people have their different opinions about conspiracies and different things. I'm not going to go into that, but definitely it's not hard for anybody to wash their hands. It's not hard for anybody to wear a mask around the elderly. It's not hard for anybody to follow basic guidelines that might help quite a bit.
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Thank you so much, Jose. I totally agree. And it's great to hear from Spain as well. In the middle of this crisis, we had a call a couple of days ago with Mir in Italy. So it really is neat to see how close we all are, even though we're so far away. So it's really
absolutely.
Nice.
Thank you for everything. And I want to wish everybody the best, and let's stay together and we'll get through this.
All right. Thanks so much. And give us a call anytime, maybe check up with us in a week or two. Hopefully this thing will have blown over, at least in Spain, by then. So
perfect. Take care, guys.
Thank you so much. And all right, we had some great callers here. It's going pretty good. I think, well, we can try to keep it open. I don't know. We're past the 2.5 hour mark, which is a pretty long show. So I'm not sure if we're going to keep it open, but maybe if there's another call. We're checking out the chat. Agree, there's definitely some beautiful opportunities. Sorry, I didn't get to ask about the Valencia Soccer Club and the Bats. I don't think I know anything about that, so I didn't want to be surprised. But I did get to go to Barcelona last year. I had a friend of mine who kind of strong-armed me into it. He gave me that whole, you're not always going to have a friend in Barcelona who has an extra couch for you to stay on. And I did the math in my head, and I agreed with him. I was like, yeah, who knows how long he's going to have this nice place with the extra couch and how long he'll be in the city. And I didn't know that much about Barcelona before I went there. I was just fantastic. Gaudy architecture, the Sagrada Familia, the Casa Batlló that I talked about yesterday. I got to tour both of those. It was excellent. Went to the Picasso Museum, walked around the old city, went to the beach. Barcelona was wonderful. So I had a great time there. I don't say it right, though. I should say Barcelona or whatever they're supposed to say. But I don't always say things right. But I think we're going to head towards the end of the show. I'm getting a little tired. I can't talk forever. Oh, the money printer's still going, though. That's good to know. Let's check out the price of Bitcoin during the show. How's it been doing? I saw it go up. It looked like around 6,200, and I saw it go down. Looks like 61, maybe 61.11. So yeah, the last of Bitcoin, the price is down 2.35% with a last of 6,120, a high of 6,319, and a low of 6,070. Remember, it's a Sunday. Not a lot of trading activity on the Sundays and Saturdays probably, but it's good that we keep the Bitcoin market open on those days, right? We don't just close it arbitrarily. That's $1 for 16,379 Satoshis. Sounds like a sweet deal. And the Dow Jones last was at 21,636, down 4% on Friday, with a previous close of 22,552. So thanks so much to everybody for joining us. Had a great time. We had a reading from Charles Bukowski, The days run away like wild horses over the hills. I talked a little bit about the Lewis Chessmen. I had this cool book, Chessmen Unmasked. I had a cool little short reading from controversy guy, Timothy Leary, Your Brain is God. It's a cool book if you haven't checked it out. And of course, it was Big Book Sunday. So I showed you guys Hunter S. Thompson and The Curse of Lono, the big book that's as big as my head. Actually bigger. So thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for giving us a thumbs up and a share. I know it's annoying, but it does help YouTube spread the word about these shows. We got 40 thumbs up, and we have 54 people still watching us, so that's a really high percentage. That's like 40 out of 54. That's really good. So thanks for liking this. Thanks for subscribing down below. You can hit the bell for the notifications. We do these shows all the time, and they're free. Maybe there's some ads and stuff, but we'll be back again tomorrow, Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, whenever that might be on your time schedule. So check out the Bitcoin group. We filmed that a couple days ago. Actually got a really good response. I don't know where these people are coming in, but we got 6,000-7,000 viewers on the Bitcoin group in the last day or so. So shout out if somebody put us on Reddit or something or help promote us somehow. That's cool. Otherwise, just shout out to the Bitcoin group audience, keeping this network running. I remember back in the day, Bitcoin group, it was his own channel for a while, and we were doing really well. And I brought it over here to kind of try to support the other shows and to help bring them up. And we had kind of the occurrence we had now where Bitcoin group would get 1,000 every week, and we get a couple hundred with the other shows. And then now Bitcoin group is getting 5,000 to 7,000 a week. And we're getting around 500 a day with the other show, which is actually really cool that like this call-in show, 50 people like it, 500 people watch it, 10 people call in. That's pretty good. I mean, these are pretty good numbers. We're doing all right. I mean, if it doubled, we'd have more callers. We'd have more people in the chat. It'd be cool. We're just working on this. This is a fun thing. I think it's fun to talk to you guys. And you can watch it later too. It's probably good to watch on a replay. But I think that's about it. We're going to go have a Sunday, maybe play some Watch Dogs 2, find a new book to read, watch a movie, staying inside. So thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.